What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.
All right, Diesel heads, it's episode 10 of the Chronicles of Diesel, a monthly show going through Vin Diesel's filmography. My name is Ethan. With me, as always, is Devin.
Sexy.
When does he say that?
He says when he's like on that ship as a prisoner, the one girl
And,
like gets
she's sniffing her? Sniffing him?
Yeah, she's like super rapey, and then he's like, "Do you know you grind your teeth when you're sleeping?"
That's right.
Sexy. Or something like that. But I'm like, let me just say sexy. Make it quick and easy.
I watched this movie with closed captions on, so I can 100% know what they're saying for the quotes. And she sniffs him 3 times because it pops up 3 times throughout the.
Vin also sniffs people in the first one too.
He does in this one too. It's
the animal. It's the animal in him. The animal.
Exactly. Well, in any case, this is the Chronicles of Diesel. As you know, because I said it 2 minutes ago, every month we go through one of Vin Diesel's films or games, or I guess sometimes in the future maybe an album. Who knows? And we discuss it. We go through the whole thing, and we review it and all that shit. We also like to talk about what's going on currently in the realm of Vin Diesel. The Vin Diesel News December month time ranking. What word am I trying to think? It's not ranking. It's rank Vin Diesel's months. July. Ever
since he was born, which one is his best?
93 August. That was the month for Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
No, what's Vin Diesel been doing recently?
So Vin Diesel, the man of the show that we do every month, like Ethan said, and every month we look at his Instagram, we look at his social media in general. We see how his followers be going up. It has yet to go down. I think it's only going to go up from here on out unless he says something really bad on live television or he has a really hot take. I don't think that's going to happen because Vin is wholesome, as we know.
Yeah,
10 episodes
some of my favorite actors have been letting me down recently.
Yeah. So because Vin's meant to be number one. Vin's meant to be number one this whole time.
Tom Cruise never let me down, but you're right. Vin Diesel hasn't either.
But on Instagram, we'll start with Instagram. He's done 8 posts in December. As of this recording, 12:27.
Is that on average for him?
Yeah, last month he was at 8 as well. Okay. So he's good 8. If you had a bet on it, if there was a way you can bet on Vin Diesel Instagram posts, I'd put money on 8 or 9. But he was at 67.1 million followers on Instagram, which is always insane to me. Like, that's a lot of people. He went up to 67.8 million this month.
So he went up 100,000.
Yeah, a lot of people liking.
Well, let's make a bet right now.
Okay.
What episode of this show will be the episode? Your cat is like rising in the background like some killer that's about to kill you.
Oh yeah.
I saw her ass moving up as if like a hooded figure was rising above you, ready to. No. What episode of this show will we find out when he finally reaches 69,000 or 69 million?
Well, looking at the numbers here, he goes up about roughly 0.7, 0.8. So if you do math on that, maybe 3 or 4 more episodes.
Okay.
I would guess if you're looking at the stocks. I wish you could put that in Robinhood, in your Robinhood account. You'd just be like, how many Vin Diesel followers are going up? You just see a graph every day.
You know what? I mean, considering that there's what's the website for shoes that's basically run like that?
There's StockX. There's
I think that's the one. Maybe it's not that, but yeah, like I'm sure because there are 2 things I know about day traders and investors, right? They're extremely emotional and they run off of like random stupid nonsense. I remember when Pokemon Go came out and it was making so much money. So many people invested in Nintendo, not realizing that Nintendo makes maybe a 1/7 of that money. because it's being split by so many different hands. You know what I mean? Because they're stupid. That, and they also fucking love numbers so much that I can easily see Instagram like stocks as a number that they follow. Like oh, how many like following the influencers, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they've gone up and down and up and down.
Yeah,
I bet that exists somewhere, and I bet there's some Vin Diesel diehards out there.
Yeah, but yeah, it's going up. It's been going up since I started tracking, which it was 4 or 5 episodes ago. He was at 65.9 4 episodes ago, I believe. So he's at 67.8. So he should cross over 68, I think, next month for sure. And to start off 2021 strong on the social media game. I didn't go too in depth in his Instagram posts because it's been mostly just photos this month of like just random captions. But there was one 2 weeks ago, December 7th. I don't know why it's marked as 2 weeks. It's actually 20 days ago, where it was a picture of him in Bloodshot. He has the bullet holes all in his shirt, and he's walking with a Jeep is exploding behind him. And he wrote, "So much great news to share. Have a great week. #Bloodshot." And at the time, everyone's like, oh, because they announced, I think it was last episode, they announced that they're going to make more Bloodshot movies. And maybe it was him trying to say, like, oh, there's even more news coming out about that. A lot of people thought that. We never saw anything else with Bloodshot, at least on his Instagram. But there was one thing that we saw. We talked about a little bit in our Game Awards review / our own Game Awards episode, where it literally blew our minds. That show, for the most part, was kind of boring, but there was one moment in particular where our minds were literally destroyed.
I was more animated and excited for him being in the fucking dinosaur game than I was for Sephiroth popping up. And I wouldn't have never expected me to be more excited for Vin Diesel than for Sephiroth. But
yes, he's
the future.
He's in Arc 2. They dropped a trailer. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's very long for a trailer or a video game trailer. Yeah, it went on for like a good 3.5 minutes. But it's him in it as like a caveman, I guess, and he fights a T-Rex, so they run away from a T-Rex, and he's with a little girl that I guess maybe is his daughter or something in the game. Not really sure. We don't know all that information yet. But he did eventually post about it a couple days afterwards, saying, playing a game for years and then being invited into the creative family. Epic. He did the gamer word, epic. And then he wrote, proud of the whole ARC team. Let the franchise begin, Arc 2, and then it's him doing a selfie, and it says it has like a screenshot, I think, of the game behind him, and he did a couple other posts after that, just general stuff. But I did more research into his involvement with what's the Studio Wildcard, who
He's
does
got like a part of the company now or something like
yeah,
that.
so
like
PC Gamer reported that he is the president of creative convergence and also executive producer of Arc 2. It's a very fancy title. And I'm like, how did he even get into this? And come to find out, he's played thousands of hours in this game.
Almost 2,000 hours, so I read as well.
And I don't know why I'm shocked, because we know he likes Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, but maybe it's kind of weird because even PC Gamer wrote, we recently got our first look at Arc 2, the sequel to the popular GPU-straining dino survival game Arc Survival Involved. So it's like, he must have a good rig, too. It sounds like. He must be a PC Gamer. But
I mean, it's on consoles as well.
Yeah, but
one of my coworkers told me the game's not even done. I don't know if that's true, though.
Maybe they just felt it was better to just start fresh with a bigger budget and instead of trying to fix it.
There's expansions and shit for it that you can buy.
I know it's popular for the most, like maybe not as big as like.
I knew people that played it.
Yeah, like I would say, same number of people I think that like play Rust or any of those type of survival games. I would guess.
It's got a dedicated fan base if Vin Diesel's playing it for thousands of hours.
Yeah, but it's just funny, that game that isn't necessarily done or isn't, the most well-made game, and they got someone like him is crazy. But I think maybe he had a bunch of hours in it, and maybe he reached out to them, or his agent did. And was like, hey, can we work together? And like made a money move, and maybe both parties were like, this sounds like a good idea, especially for Arc 2, which probably gets more publicity from this. maybe people out there who've never heard of this game, and then Vin Diesel's like, I'm in this video game.
I mean, you just said 3 different headlines. He's in the game, he's played it for thousands of hours, and he's like an executive producer. Those are 3 separate headlines.
Yeah.
You put him in this game, you're getting media coverage longer than you would if you didn't.
And, you know, he's going to post on his social media when the game comes out. Like, that just probably drives so much sales. At this rate, it might be over, 70 million followers or 80 million followers when this game comes out. They don't have a release date yet, but
he's definitely there also for marketing for sure.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool. I hope if they're doing a story mode, I hope he's in it because since we're doing this show, we have to review or play. We're doing a video game hopefully soon. We're going to be Vin Diesel's in. What was it called again?
Escape from Butcher Bay. And then we also still have Fast and Furious Crossroads, but I did not want to pay $60 for that at launch.
Yeah, but I'm excited in a way. Like, I had no real interest in this game, but now that he's in it, I mean, I guess that's where the marketing comes in. I'm like, you know what?
100%.
If there's a story mode, like, even if it's like a 20-hour story mode.
His character has a name, Santiago.
Is it? I didn't see confirmed anywhere, but maybe I missed it.
I saw that somewhere, so yeah, he'll be playing Santiago in Arc 2. At the very least, he might just be like an earpiece voice you hear while you play Arc. But I mean, fuck it. If that's what I have to do, then I'll take it.
It's funny too to prove, I guess, that he's played a lot. Arc Survival Involved wrote a while back that they fixed this one thing, and it's the patch notes where berries will no longer tame the fair fox, or whatever it's called, fair rocks, with our next major deployment. Thank you very much for the after hours bug report. And they said Vin Diesel actually reported this bug.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe like other people were reporting it, and then like it's on the backboard, and then Vin like, fuck, dude. Vin Diesel's playing this.
Like, hey, I noticed that if I feed this berry to this dinosaur, that it gets tamed when he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Now here's my question to you.
Uh-huh.
Vin Diesel's in this fucking game because he played it for thousands of hours. What game do you wish he played instead for thousands of hours so he could be in? Because I'm going to tell you mine right now. I wish, heart of hearts, more than anything, this motherfucker played Final Fantasy VII for thousands of hours, so he could be they may just make a new soldier, like how they made that Roche guy on the motorcycle. He's new to remake. Make another one. Make him fucking Vin Diesel. You know what I mean?
And it's just Vin Diesel though, or is he playing a new character? It's
gonna look like Vin Diesel.
Okay, so it's like mocap. Okay,
I want to see like red carpet photos of him standing next to Nomura, guy that dresses so fucking weird, standing next to Vin Diesel. I want that. But what game would that be for you?
First one that came to mind was Apex Legends. I would love to play as Vin Diesel. I don't know what kind of like character he would be, but like just having his voice be there for like the quips and stuff like would be fantastic. Because he can do voice acting. We know that, so like he'd be perfect for something like that. He just has to read maybe 30 or so lines, but they're all like, I'm shielding, or I'm healing up.
Everything you ping, they have 2 different takes of those lines, and it's ongoing. When they add new stuff, new characters, he's got to banter off of all of them. So it's if that actually makes a lot of sense. If he's played for thousands of hours, he's committed to the game itself. He would be like, oh, they add a new character. Now you need to do duo lines with that character. There's a new gun. You need to do this. I think he would actually be down for that.
And we need
to introduce him to Apex Legends.
And from what I read here is the studio has said that he understands the game. This is actually a quote from PC Gamer. Quote from Studio Wildcard that is in PC Gamer's article. They said he understands the game intimately and is providing direct feedback to the development process, says Studio Wildcard. Diesel's already hard at work reporting bugs, too. So, Santiago. I see it now. Santiago, yep.
Okay.
But, so it sounds like they didn't just get him just necessarily for the marketing, but it sounds like he actually understands the game and has thoughts about it. So I think that's cool,
Right, absolutely. I mean, how rare do you happen to see, fucking Henry Cavill played World of Warcraft so much that he almost missed his acceptance call to play Superman because he was in a raid. How many stories like that happen still? And let alone about games that Ark is a popular game and it sells very well. I'm sure. Like, I'm sure it makes a lot of money, right? But it's not like it's diminished out of the forefront of like I forget about that game all the time. That's still a thing, you know what I mean? So for a game like that to be like, hey, an actor like a Vin Diesel or like a Henry Cavill or whatever is playing this game for thousands of hours, let's capitalize off of that. It's such a good
and this is not to go on too long of a tangent here, but like video games are becoming more and more of a like it's less about like the white dude in the mom basement kind of person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, that's a gamer. Those people are game. It's like, no, everyone's a gamer now. Like, even Vin motherfucking Diesel plays thousands of hours. Like, I don't know. He has all these kids. I'm just like, when is he sitting on his computer?
Aww.
You know what I mean? Like, or does he play with his kids? Who knows? Knowing him, that's probably the wholesome thing he does.
That's a game you could play with his family.
Yeah. So, it is cool to see like people like Henry Cavill and Vin Diesel, who you probably are like, okay, these guys are probably out of touch with the gamers or whatnot, and like they're like, hey, I have 1,000 hours in this. I missed a call almost to play one of the most iconic superheroes of all time,
like the most iconic,
to do a raid that like I probably could do later. But
yeah, exactly. One of my favorite side note, I follow Wario64 on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He always tweeting out deals. For the most part, it's box art or like, you know, Steam key art or whatever, right? But there are some games where there's such a joke that he puts a different image instead. Whether it be for like something Kingdom Hearts, it's the weird random screen grab of a very serious Woody. Whenever he posts a deal about PC Building Simulator, it's the image of Henry Cavill's gigantic arm picking up.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most iconic gaming moments of 2020.
Anything else happened with Vin Diesel this?
The only other thing I see here that could
last month of the year.
Yeah, the only thing I see here that could lead to something bigger. We had last 2 episodes. We're on like a 3-month streak now of having some like crazy breaking news to talk about, which is awesome.
Please tell me it's not another song.
Well, on was it 6 days ago? So that'd be the 21st of December. He wrote, "Moments in music this month have been so productive. Blessed to roll out our film slate. So many great things to come. In addition, this month we have managed to make magic musically. Can't wait for you to all hear what he tagged some dude named Farouk, and I cooked up. He is so talented. All love, always." So it sounds like he's working with some producer maybe to make an album or maybe master or something, another single he's been working on. So it sounds like we might getting new music too. I still think we're getting an album. I just don't know when.
For the record, when I said, please, I hope it's not another song, I'm not saying I don't like the songs, but they always come out right when I need to edit this. So we have to do another edit session. Or
hopefully
session.
Nothing, but knowing him, he might drop it like on the 31st. I could totally see that being like, Happy New Year. Here you go. Because his last post currently is him wearing a nice black tuxedo, by the way, and a big old thumbs up. It says, "Happy Creative Sunday. I'll love this holiday season. Thumbs up for the new year, new decade. Let's go." And that was 5 hours ago. So maybe that's his New Year's post. I don't know, but
I wonder what games he's been playing for Christmas besides his Christmas break.
I don't know.
Arc. Maybe does he have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X?
Dude, these rich people already have that
they
shit.
Just get both.
Yeah.
What was it? James Gunn has like a special or Xbox. He's got some special Xbox, like emblazoned or whatever, and he doesn't even play games. It's like, they sent it to me. It has my name on it. I'm like, awesome. Can Xbox send me one?
With my name
like
on it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, well, if that is all that Vin Diesel has been doing in the present, that's actually some big news. Can he be in Smash Brothers too? I mean, Jesus, we got 3 characters.
But they do it like the old fighting games, like Mortal Kombat. It's just like the photo animation of him. So it's not even like an animated version. It's just like they just did screen.
They took multiple.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Actually, you know what? I think there is a really good chance that Sub-Zero or Scorpion makes it into Smash Brothers.
Really? You think?
Because they've been adding fighting game characters. Sakurai, the director, loves fighting games. I think it would be Sub-Zero over Scorpion because shooting ice at people is slightly less violent than impaling them. But they would make it work.
Fireballs,
anyway.
yeah.
I mean, some characters have just literal guns. Like the Persona 5 guy has a pistol, and it's literally just called a gun. So like Nintendo's fine with it now.
They're fine with guns.
Awesome. It would be
Nintendo
awesome
supports the Second Amendment.
It would be awesome. Well, because usually it's like laser blasters or whatever.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Bayonetta was the closest. It'd be awesome if an alternate costume for Sub-Zero or whatever is like they actually like they make it look like it is the old blurry photos.
That'd be cool.
Random side tangent. Jesus, what is this? The Sonic movie show? We're talking about Vin Diesel's 2004 epic called The Chronicles of Riddick. I almost said The Chronicles of Diesel. That's right.
Well, this is what we're based off of, this title.
It's the title of the fucking podcast series.
And it happened to be episode 10, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Chronicles of Riddick, released in 2004, directed once again by David Twohy. He's done these movies, and he's still continuing to do these movies.
Yeah, writing the script and whatnot, yeah.
Side note, and I didn't bring this up back when we did Pitch Black, because I didn't find it relevant at the time, but especially now, with an entire movie about being on not necessarily a desert planet, but a deserted, scorching, barren planet in a prison. So it's interesting to point out that he wrote an early draft of Alien 3 back in 92.
Really?
It's uncredited, apparently. He's not credited for it because it was just a draft that was probably rejected, maybe. But
let's remake Alien 3, but just throw Vin Diesel.
Very similar. I loved Alien 3.
Just replace Ripley, but no, he plays Ripley.
Oh my god.
That'd be dope.
Produced by Scott Krumpf and Vin Diesel. Budget of $110 million. Can you, Devin, guess for me what the box office for this film is?
I feel like every time I get this, either maybe 50 million off, or not 50 million, but like 500 million off, or I'm like way off. So I'm gonna try my best.
500 million off is way off.
Sorry, I meant like 50.
Really? Yeah.
I'm gonna say
whatever you're thinking, go lower. It's all I'm gonna say.
180.
115.
Damn.
This movie made $5 million more than its budget.
Oof.
Which is crazy to me that they made more of these then, to be quite honest. But yeah, budget of 110, box office 115. I have a lot of trivia, but I'll bring a couple of these up right now. This movie, like Pitch Black, became a bigger success due to its DVD sales than it was theatrically, and because of its DVD sales, Universal Pictures was interested in making a sequel. So David Twohy wrote 3 screenplays. And he and Vin Diesel, because Vin Diesel was attached to this, especially after the success of, obviously, Fast and Furious, and then Triple X was probably in production at this point, and it was a headlining Vin Diesel film. Like, I think we said it was the first one or the second one.
One of those,
he was
yeah.
The headliner. Remember, Paul Walker was the headliner on Fast and Furious. So, like, him and Vin Diesel, that's why Vin Diesel was a producer on this film, went to Universal Pictures and presented them 3 binders, each with its own screenplay, but only gave them the key to the first binder. I don't know what their power play was. That's literally all that was written down here. If it was like, find out if it's the one or what. But there was 3 screenplays written for it. Also, during production of this movie, or shortly after, I'm not quite sure which, but definitely not after Pitch Black, some point around this time, Metal Gear Solid actor David Hayter, who wrote X-Men 1 and 2, as well as a few other things, wrote a prequel story to these films about how you remember in Pitch Black the one bounty hunter that was after him. It's a story about how and why Vin Diesel pissed that guy off a lot, I guess, is essentially
so just more backstory to
Riddick.
Riddick.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that. Also, This movie was shot and filmed and produced entirely in British Columbia, Canada.
Shout out to Canada.
They used so much electricity that on one certain day, whatever day it was, they were the third highest user of electricity in all of fucking Canada. Production of this movie.
I'm trying to think of like
maybe set lighting and just intense rendering of CGI stuff and like
what
cranes. I don't know.
There wasn't like that much lighting. Maybe that sun we saw was just a big light.
So no, that was CGI.
I know, but what if it was like actually that's a big light? It was so hot that when you saw them burning, that was real.
Usually when I do look for trivia and stuff, I don't look at like the stupid plot holes or like, oh, there was a tablecloth here and then it got ruffled a bit and it's not shown ruffled, and I hate that most of that kind of shit. But one that I found was interesting, that's why I usually don't put them in our trivia stuff. One I found that was interesting for this is in a couple scenes where Vin Diesel is outside in that barren wasteland and the giant sun is coming up, that's all CG'd, but they show his reaction to it and you can see the green screen reflected in his fucking goggles. So
I didn't see it, so I guess good
right,
catch.
So, let's begin. The Chronicles of Riddick. I'm actually not used to saying that. I'm used to saying Chronicles of Diesel.
Oh, but before we start, I know usually, before we forget, like, did you like it? Like, we could talk more in detail later like we do, but just like
that's
on
right.
the surface.
Yeah. So, dialing it back, before we even watched Pitch Black, we knew nothing about it, and we're like, oh man, it's a sci-fi fantasy epic series, right? I think it's gonna be so cool. It's like what we named the podcast after. You know, it's one of his 3 pillar staples: Fast and Furious, Triple X, this. And besides Fast and Furious, this is going to be like a bigger, more cooler thing than Triple X. We watched Pitch Black, completely different than what we were expecting.
Yeah,
it was more of a grimy, dirty, very realistic, sci-fi, futuristic setting like Alien, you know, and how they set up that world in Alien, than what we were expecting. And it wasn't a bad movie. We came to the conclusion that it was interesting, and there were things to enjoy from it.
Yeah.
And then I think it was last episode, we discussed, all right, we're watching Chronicles of Riddick next. What do we think it's going to be? Because our expectations were completely different than what the...
I don't even remember what we said, but I remember we made a prediction, but I don't remember the prediction.
I might go back, because I think I literally tried to predict what the plot would be, and I don't remember. I was also still not expecting this. I was not expecting, like, fantasy sci-fi.
This was like, more fantasy than sci-fi at moments. Like, I was like holy shit, this is like magic. And
right?
Settings are just more fantasy than it was sci-fi,
like,
for sure.
Roman shit, you know what I mean? Like gladiator type fantasy. Like, they got guns. Why are you fighting them with a spear? I don't understand.
Because it's cool. I don't know.
But that's you know, and then the iconography and like all the fact that and I don't necessarily hate it when it's used in movies, but I think it was done pretty well here, is like a very straightforward religious, like, crusade type of bad guy type of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very, very different. I liked this movie quite a bit. We'll get to the end and how my headspace and your headspace is in terms of ranking it with the other ones, but I liked the movie. I had a lot of fun. What about you?
Yeah, it definitely was not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be more of the tail end of what we saw in the Chronicles of Riddick. Like, it was definitely more, like you said, Alien, where it was more science fiction action. There was like some religious, you know,
yeah, because there was sorry, I don't want to cut you off too often. I'm trying to get better at it, but like there was a whole thing of like the holy man who's in the beginning of this movie. He's Muslim in the first movie, and I'm sure he still is in this. But like they go to a point like they're going from Earth to New Mecca, if that's a planet or a city on a new planet, whatever. And it's very much our culture expanded in the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here it's presented more of like, we are one planet in a universe of plenty of different cultures. And like, it's weird to see like these Roman conquistador looking people and like still have in the mind like, no, that this man was a Muslim. He was going to Mecca. this
Well,
is
part of it
weird,
might be
you know?
because of 2004, and once again, we're going to tie it back to 9/11. 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
Muslims bad. Not saying I agree with that, but Muslims bad at this time for America. So that might be something to do with it that they don't. Because I don't even think they actually say at any point that he's Muslim.
They just say "holy man."
Yeah, but it's weird that they kind of just were like, no, this is a fantasy with science fiction elements, 100%.
Crazy fantasy.
And I was not expecting it. The whole time I'm just like, no wonder this was on Sci-Fi. Because I'm sure I've seen. I don't think I've seen this one, but I've seen chunks of this one and maybe Riddick on like the Sci-Fi Channel growing up, and it's crazy because it feels like a totally different tone. But I like it though.
Completely different.
I like it. It's just I had to kind of like let myself go with it though, not overthink it. Just be like, this is kind of like how Triple X was, where like you have to just not take it too seriously. And I'm like, this is a fantasy. Like, okay, any like,
don't fight it, let it entertain you.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I went with it, and I wind up liking it. I feel like it's a little long. Did you watch the director's cut, by the way?
So yeah, we watched the director's cut. Thankfully, it was on HBO Max. It was a solid 14 minutes ish longer. I have a full list of differences that will go through the movie, but actually, I'll bring it the first real one up now. I was shocked to find out this subplot or like aspect was not in the theatrical version, but everything related to his visions of the Furian woman talking to him and his energy blast, none of that was in the theatrical version.
Interesting.
None of it.
Huh.
So like if you think about it, if you watch this in theaters, he's just a dude that came, but they're treating him as if he's superhuman. But as far as the context of what you see, he's just a dude still. So all the visions are in this unrated director's cut, including like, so I guess the trailer showed the huge energy blast he does. That's not in the theatrical version.
Really?
Exactly. It's not in the theatrical version. You would remember that scene, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it was presented in a trailer and be like, so when did he shoot the blue energy out of his stomach? You know?
Huh.
Yeah, there's a few other stuff, but you mentioned watching this and the first movie in chunks on Sci-Fi, catching it here and there whenever. Random little things. There was a short made-for-TV prequel to Pitch Black, I guess, made by Sci-Fi on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh.
As from what I heard, so it deals with people landing on that planet and investigating the people that died there, and then they also die too or something. But people say it's inconsistent. Like, the later actual movies, like, break the logic of whatever happened.
Or
there.
break the canon.
Yeah, exactly. That, and there is a third version of this movie that ran on television that was a combination of the theatrical and unrated, because there is two instances where there's stuff not in the director's cut that is in the theatrical, and it's more of an artistic choice, if that makes sense.
Huh.
Like, the director decided he didn't want this and replaced it, as opposed to, here are scenes that we cut, added in. You know what I mean? But we will get to those as we get to them. But yeah, very, very, very interesting. Yeah, we watched the unrated director's cut. Did you feel like it was super R-rated violent or unrated violent, or like it was times I couldn't really, like, I forgot that it was unrated. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I would have said maybe
there's one swear word.
Soft R. Like a very
was
soft
originally
R.
And Universal Pictures, I guess, said, well, can we try to make it PG-13? So they edited it down to PG-13. Pitch Black was R, and from what I've read, the later movies are also rated R. So
I guess it would be like some of like the weapons they use and how they use them. Maybe that made it R rating. Like,
there's a fight scene when they're escaping crematoria, and the guards, the necromongers, and Vin Diesel are all fighting. It's like a three-way fight. Apparently, they cut like certain sound effects and certain quick takes for the theatrical version. Maybe that's where the extra violence comes in. That they dropped.
Yeah,
it down,
I would say
maybe.
that even the unrated version is like a soft R. If I had to rate, like if I had to rate it myself, I would say a soft R.
Yeah, and like again, one swear word. You know what I mean? Even then, like PG-13, you get to say fuck once. They say fuck once here too in the unrated version, so it's interesting. Yeah, let's begin our recap. So we get the Universal Pictures logo, and then we get the start of the movie. It's this futuristic, strange tower, this weird, strange tower. And I swear to Christ, I thought that was another logo. I'm like, man, this is a long-ass, like, production company logo. This has to be a logo, right? No, it's a strange tower with 3 different heads, and it emits a light in a strange futuristic city. Here we're told by Judi Dench that the necromongers are taking over the universe, and we get this weird, like, shot of... I don't know if it was like a suicidal run that they were doing, because they kind of show this later on, but as we watch a planet get destroyed, we're told that evil must fight evil, and then we get this movie's title. Now we see a man on the run on an ice planet, and an attack ship chases him, and they get their quarry, but he cuts free. It's Vin Diesel. Apparently this is the only part in the entire series that Vin Diesel has hair.
Okay. Spoilers for Riddick.
I guess. Yeah. Riddick then sneak attacks the ship, picking off the men one by one. Riddick then turns into Xander Cage and informs the leader that he made 3 mistakes. He then learns who sent the hit out on him. It was a weird... Again, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on this as well. One of our complaints about Pitch Black was that the character of Riddick was a bit too preachy and, like, sage-like and, like, also better at you than you, and also didn't give a shit about you, but at the same time also needed to be learning you stuff. And this is where it starts to pop back up, and I completely forgot that character was like that until now. What was your reaction when you first saw?
It's funny is
there?
I was like, even though that was a criticism in Pitch Black, because I think the tone was different, since this was the very start of the movie, they're like, oh yeah, remember him? He was the cool part of Pitch Black, remember? He was kind of douchey, so here's a couple douchey lines, and but in a way, I feel like it made it more, it was less, I don't even want to say douchey, because it was more of a, like, it was like a mix between confidence and, like, he wound up getting information out of him because of it at one point, because it was after he asked the questions, or no, he asked one more question. He was like, he asked like who sent you or whatever, and eventually gets that. And the very last question, which was I thought was funny, like I actually laughed out loud, was when he was like, who owns the ship? And he's like, me. And it just cuts to him getting thrown out, and I'm like, oh, because the answer should have been, no, you are. And he maybe would have let him live or let him stay on the ship or something. But I just thought that was funny, and it was a quick introduction to, or I guess revisit to what this character was. But I don't think it was as douchey as he was, or at least in that couple lines, wasn't as bad as, I don't want to say bad because it's negative, but just as douchey, I guess, as he was in Pitch Black altogether. And I feel like this is also... You could probably watch this movie without watching Pitch Black. And I feel like that was a good way of them showing, like, this is the kind of guy he is. He's a survivor. He can best the odds.
Not a good guy.
He's not a good guy. And he's cocky. And he'll make fun of you for being dumb. You know? So I think it was a good way of introducing what the character was. Whether or not the character is that great is up to opinion. But...
Fair.
It's a good way of introducing what the character was, at least in the first movie.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good point. Also, that guy that was thrown out that he asked the questions to, his name is Toombs, and the actor is named Nick Chinlund, I believe. I got a couple trivia about him, but the first one is that his character has a fake tooth, or at least several fake teeth. The actor accidentally swallowed one of his fake teeth by accident, obviously.
Did he have to get that
it was
out?
pretty hard to pass. But who knows?
Damn.
He also liked playing that character so much, which is interesting to me. But in any case, stealing their ship, Riddick sets out to take on the guy that put the hit on him. and I think it's one of the people he saved from the first movie. I didn't mean to keep that in there. It is the guy from the first movie, the Holy Man, the guy we were mentioning earlier. Now we cut to another planet where a prisoner is transferred to a cage. We learn later that this is Jack, aka now Kira. This scene was cut in the theatrical version. This is a director's cut edition, which is interesting because this is setting up a little bit of not foreshadowing, but like, hey, there's threads that are going to be connecting to him. You know what I mean?
If you watch the first one, you know who this is, and she's probably going to come back.
I didn't, to be honest. I didn't know it was that person. But...
I was once they say, like, I don't think they said her name, but I feel like I knew.
It's pretty quickly, like, the character, the idea of the character is brought up. So yeah, I think it's not.
To me, I was like, why else are they showing her unless it's one? Either I didn't know at first it was either her or the other girl that he saved at the end of Pitch Black. I don't know what happened to her.
She died.
She's dead? I forgot if she died or not.
Yeah, it was just the kid and the Holy Man.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So then I was misremembering, but yeah, I knew.
I was like, oh, is this his kid?
Either that or I'm like, this has got to be a character they run into, but I'm like, I have a feeling it's going to be the same because she was younger. So, but
yeah,
I'm glad that they kept that in for the director's cut. I feel like it'd been weird to have her appear later on when she does and been like, who's this?
Right, without any setup, for sure.
And she's not like iconic, like, let's say Darth Vader, where like all of a sudden you see a red lightsaber in the shadows and you're like, oh fuck yeah, it's Darth Vader. Like, you know what I mean? It's who's this again? Especially for people who might not have watched Pitch Black, which I think they made this movie for people who necessarily didn't watch that film.
Right, and you're not really missing much if you didn't watch Pitch Black.
Yeah.
We hear the line that opened the first movie during this part. The primitive part of the brain stays awake while you're in Kairos sleep. It's like we're getting cuts between his close-up eyes and Jack's close-up eyes, and then also this mysterious Furian woman in his visions, and like she's also kind of saying it too, and it's a weird like connecting. I thought that the kid in the cage was one of his people or something, and it's not, but I thought that was like some sort of like weird mind connecting thing. Back to Riddick. He's made it to a planet called Helion Prime.
Helion, I think it was pronounced.
Yeah, Helion.
I thought it was Helium Prime when he said that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's going to be like a helium planet or something. Nope.
He makes it to Helium Prime and fights off the local police. We cut as he's trying to land. We cut to a man walking through town, heading home. It's the Holy Man from the first movie that saved Riddick, or that Riddick saved, rather. As he enters his home, Riddick is there and starts to interrogate him on how and why the man put a hit on him, but is cut short when he sees that the man has a child named Sawzall. Riddick learns from the man about the necromongers from the start of the movie. They're coming to destroy the planet. Riddick then meets the people that hired for his capture. So the idea was, I believe, more of like, we need you to help us stop them.
And I knew that it would lead. It was basically like a distress call in a messed up kind of way, where I knew you were going to beat them. I knew you were going to get here and save the day, or at least help you. It's funny that he's like, okay, he helped us fight these like monsters, which are animals in the dark. And he's like, can you help us fight this galactic existential threat that is from like, they're like from the underworld, or not even from this plane. So you have not just the idea of there being a space fleet, which is probably scary enough as itself. And they're like, oh, and also they have like magic powers from this realm called the underworld or whatever, underverse, which is like such a lame name, but I love it at the same time. The underverse.
And of course, the person that tells him all this stuff is like a ghost woman. Judi Dench is in this movie.
She appears out of nowhere too. She's like, oh, I'm here, and I'm like,
what's up, bitches?
Yeah, when I saw, I'm like, Judi Dench. Like, why? I would never have guessed she was going to be in this film.
I don't know if it was straight up saying that the Underverse was real, or that their powers were extraplanar, or if there was just, because they say like, oh, like they're so mysterious, and like they're kind of like the Reapers from Mass Effect, where like they've been all throughout time, and they're coming back to destroy everything. as if they're or like the Dark Elves from Thor 2,
Yeah,
kind of a thing. But like at the same time, I think they were just a really powerful civilization. But since the universe is so big, you wouldn't see them in your lifetime, if ever.
But I like how I thought it was this cool like fantasy thing. They're like, oh, the comet always appears right before they arrive.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's cool.
It's them.
Yeah, I'm like, that's cool.
I got 3 fun facts about Judi Dench here. Number one,
she's in Cats.
according to her autobiography, she had no idea what was going on in this movie whatsoever.
I mean,
but
I guess
she thought that the
fair.
sets were very good. She thought that the sets were great, though. But yeah, she's like, if you said, "Oh, yeah, like I like that movie, like, The Prison Planet," she'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Prison Planet?
I'm on like a
spaceship,
yeah, for like most
like
of the film.
a temple." Yeah, exactly. Dressed in all white, while everyone else wears like gray and black
armor or whatever.
Exactly.
Is this a fantasy film space? I don't know. I don't know.
In fact, Vin Diesel loves Judi Dench so much that he sought her out for this role, and he told her, "If you don't take this role, we're not going to cast anyone for it. And we're not going to continue making this movie until you give me an answer."
What?
He made a power play on fucking Judi Dench.
And Judi Dench bowed down. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Because Judi Dench at this point of her, I mean, she winds up doing James Bond and Cats.
She was also in Harry Potter.
Yeah,
and
I'm just saying,
Downton
like,
Abbey.
she didn't need to, like, she could easily have been like, no. Like, this is a no-name, well, I guess, was it a franchise at this point? I don't know if you call it a franchise, but, like, I'm getting these roles in, like, James motherfucking Bond. Harry Potter is going to be, like, one of the... Harry Potter has already had, like, what, 2 or 3 movies out at this point?
This is 2004, so yeah, you're right.
So
at
it's
least
like
3.
it's such a weird thing to be like, no, you're going to be in this, or else it just ain't going to be made.
Now, maybe she saw Vin Diesel as a brilliant up-and-coming actor and was like, actually, yeah,
I
will.
love the Fast and Furious. I love fast cars.
So, for the first time ever in the Chronicles of Diesel, in my notes, in my trivia, for the first time ever, I wrote this out in all caps. Because it's this fucking important.
Okay, I'm ready.
Vin Diesel played Dungeons and Dragons on set with Judi Dench, Carl Urban, and Tandy Newton. They did it in between takes.
What?
Judi Dench played Dungeons and Dragons with Vin Diesel.
That's crazy. Dude, I'm this show is probably one of the best things that happened in my life. I would never have known. That is a real fast fact right there. Like those first 2 facts were pretty crazy, but the fact they're like, oh yeah, by the way, they're playing D&D on the side. She had no idea what was going on in that world, but she knew what was going on in the Dungeons and Dragons world.
Now I could see Carl Urban, who was in Lord of the fucking Rings, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Tandy Newton. The only movie I've seen her in besides this one is Mission Impossible 2. So she's been in like 2 movies. Mission Impossible 2 was terrible. I would have not expected her to play Dungeons and Dragons. But Vin Diesel got Judi Dench to play Dungeons and fucking Dragons with him. That's insane.
I mean, I kind of want to... It's another question to ask Vin if we ever get him on one day. Dream goal.
What was her character?
Yeah, what was your world? Like, what was going on? Like, I need to know more about that campaign or whatever you guys were doing, because that's crazy. I wouldn't... Wow.
Dude. Exactly. When I said that, I'm like, there's no fucking way this is real. Damn.
Maybe that was part of Vin Diesel's way of getting her to do the role. He's like, we'll play Dungeons and Dragons, all right? We'll play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a great DM, trust me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, when I read this, it didn't say who was DMing, if it was a 5th person or if it was him.
What if it was like some
fucking her?
Yeah, maybe it was her, or maybe it was like, I can imagine it just being some like intern, some dude who just does the lights, like they're just best buds with.
Yeah, because now we could obviously learn this by digging deeper into Vin Diesel's Dungeons and Dragons history, but is he a DM or is he just a player? You know what I mean? Has he DM'd before? Does he like doing it, or does he like, no man, I just like to play? Because I watched Critical Role did a one shot with Vin Diesel called Dungeons and Diesel. It was obviously just a 1 session type of thing. He definitely seems like he just plays it. At least maybe he hasn't played it in a few years, but like I don't know if he would be the DM, but I don't know. Maybe one of these other people is actually really good at it too.
Who knows?
It's very interesting.
Who knows?
Back to the movie, which is not fantasy. Well, it kind of is fantasy.
No, it is
It's
fantasy.
Space fantasy.
This is a fantasy film. Like I said earlier, to me, this is 100% a fantasy film first with science fiction elements. Like they are like, except maybe like the whole part where he's on that one planet with the sun and the. Well, even then, that's kind of like fantasy in a way. Like this world is on the surface is burned, but
so many fucking people on the internet want to correct how that's illogical and how that wouldn't happen. Because if the temperature differential was 1,000 degrees, like the movie says, they'd have to be so close to the sun that nothing would live there. And actually, even if the fucking air is light to 700, that means the ground still is going to be like 1,000 degrees. And when your oven turns on to self-cleaning, mode,
there's nothing called the underverse
blah.
to our knowledge, so you might want to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. But back to the movie. We get a classic scene of the good guys convincing the main guy to do a good guy thing, but the good guy doesn't, or the main guy doesn't really want to, while also learning that Riddick is a Furian, an ancient race from a planet that has been since wiped out. We don't necessarily know if, especially in the theatrical version, if that means anything, but just like he's from this planet. But they consider that a good enough reason to task him with saving the universe.
Every time you say Furian, my brain I keep hearing Aryan, and I'm just like, so fucked up.
Jesus. See, I thought you were going to say destroy all humans.
Oh, yeah, the Furons, yep.
Armed men come in to inspect the home. For some reason. It's just to get them out on the street. Really. Oh, they think they saw a spy. What the fuck are you talking about?
Bro, there's a meteor. Yeah, like, can we just
just chill?
Like people are gonna rob things. Like that's exactly. The least of our worries right now. We're about to fight a.
Vin Diesel knocked these motherfuckers out cold. They probably died, unaware that they were invaded.
Yeah,
you know?
Their families are gonna probably be killed,
or
not killed, reborn.
Everyone is thrown out while Riddick beats them all up. Riddick is then told by the Holy Man about the child from the first movie, Jack, and how she went looking for Riddick and got captured and sent to a hot planet called Crematoria. Cremation, obviously, is
cool.
probably the root of that title. And then I think it's briefly in this dialogue that the main woman from Pitch Black is her. She's like not name dropped because her name isn't said, but like he shoots shots back at Vin Diesel, and Vin Diesel says something where he says like, "Hey, you couldn't even save her." You know what I mean? Like, get it together or something. Whatever. Which is, like, the only shout-out to anyone besides those two people from that movie. Which, by the way, one more piece of information I forgot to say at the beginning of this. There was a brief idea of having this movie go back to that planet and fight those things again.
And do aliens, basically, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. Have nothing to do with the whole space Roman type of... crusade going on, but they did it. But and then I guess a slight spoiler for the next one, I guess they do go back to that planet in the next movie. I don't know if it's for the whole thing or just like a pit stop, but whatever.
We need gas.
We need to go.
Fuck, we have to go back here. It's the only gas station in the next 3 planets.
The Necromonger ships are entering the atmosphere and beginning their invasion. Riddick ditches the group and watches utter destruction. It's just like fucking a ground and air battle.
It's Blitzkrieg. They just it's not even close, and it seems like no one really has a chance at fighting back.
They show up, they kill you all, and then they claim victory. There's not even a hey, surrender. We have you surrounded. It's like nope, bloodshed. It's an all-out war, and the Holy Man's family is making for their shelter. Riddick is there, and they watch a ground battle unfold. And it was weird to see rank and file still in this kind of movie. Like
that's what
you got like a very dense, very obviously Arabic inspired city with multiple elevations and and non-gridded segmented walkways, and you got terrain all over the place. This is guerrilla warfare shit, and you got like fucking Revolutionary War happening right now. It's like, come on, you should be a little bit more creative.
But I think that sticks to the fantasy element of like that's how they fought in.
You're right.
Not even just Revolutionary War, but just like even in
Lord of the Rings
or medieval times. Like you had your two armies clash in the open field next to the castle, and you're like, okay, we won. Now we have to siege the castle. You know what I mean? So
exactly. Yeah, it's fair. But when the one dude sets up like the staff, and then the light goes up, and it was, I guess, just like a grenade or something.
A very slow grenade, but
weird. When that happened, I immediately thought, because at the beginning of the movie, it opens up with a tower emitting a light, and then it's one of the giant explosions that wipes out everything. I thought that was this. I thought this invasion was just a sacrificial, get it started type of thing. And I'm like, damn, they're gonna... I guess Vin Diesel's gonna live somehow. No, okay, they didn't do that. But that's what I thought was happening. I'm like, damn. They're making their way through the city to a ship Riddick secured, and are attacked and are forced to split up. The Holy Man is killed by this big dude with a dagger in his back, which I think is a brilliant way to show an identity of a soldier that has a helmet on, wearing the same uniform as anyone else, that isn't necessarily supposed to be a general or anything. Is you just... They stuck a dagger, somehow he got a dagger stuck in his back. And then that's how you can identify him throughout the whole thing. It's not like, oh, his helmet has an extra horn on it. Maybe you didn't notice that. No, you're going to notice a dagger sticking out of his back.
Yeah.
He just seems unaffected, which I think is brilliant.
I was going to say, I feel like if he waited just a little bit longer, Riddick would have came and saved the day, though.
Because Riddick shows up, like, immediately.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, he's dead. And then he leaves, this is also a weird thing I didn't like in the film, where it's like they kind of like hinted like, okay, he's gonna have to save this kid and the Holy Man's wife, and then like we just never see him until like the very end of the film again, for the most part. I think they did a couple like cutbacks to him, like
just to show like, oh, worry, they're still occupied, and
I'm like, no, wouldn't they have been changed by now? I thought like they made it seem like they just within like 3 hours just gathered everybody and turned them into the Underverse people or whatever they're called, the Necromongers.
They even made a point of having Vin Diesel, when he sees Zazie or Ziza, the Holy Man's child, he says the same thing that he first said when he saw Jack in the first movie of cute kid. To be even pointing out like, oh yes, he like this is like it's the reason why he didn't kill the Holy Man, or at least hurt him, is because his child was watching. You know what I mean? So you're right. Like, it's weird that we didn't go back there. But in any case, morning comes, and it appears that the Necromongers have won. We're shown a few of the main bad guys. We're showing, Jesus, I wrote his name a million times.
The Lord
Vaco.
Marshal.
Yep, the Lord Marshal, and then Dame Vaco. I just refer to her as Dame. She's Tandy Newton.
Yep.
Carl Urban is Vaco. And I don't remember who was Lord Marshal. His name didn't stick out to me, but
Colm Fior. I've seen him in other stuff.
His face looks familiar. That's why I'm like, he's someone. But
he's in Thor as King Laufey.
Oh, yep. He's the dark elf leader guy. That movie was terrible. Turns out the Necromonger shtick is a religious one, and their crusade is simple. They kill everyone and then just occupy everywhere. The people that refuse to convert are shown an example of what will happen if they don't when a man loses his soul. This is one of 2 times that they do this, and I forgot about this at the end of the movie until it was brought back of like, oh yeah, they can suck your soul out.
Like that's like, yeah, it's just like, this is science fiction.
Why didn't they do that
and then like, nah, they're doing Shang Tsung. They're just, your soul is mine, and just taking it right then and there, like it's easy peasy. They have like, but they also hint at like a assembly line where they do this, I guess. Sorry, that's when they kill them. Like, I guess like lethal injection or something, and bring them back as like their minions, and like that's your one way of like surviving this conquest. It's either your soul is taken or you turn into another soldier.
They basically bring you to the brink of death and then bring you back so that you can appreciate them.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can see all these characters, they have the marks on their neck. including Kira at the end of the movie, which implies that they converted her in quotes, but she wasn't mind controlled, so I don't know if it was like a. But in any case, but yeah, no, like they just take a soul, which then implies a religious aspect is real to this universe, which is cool. One of the things I did appreciate is when the one dude is standing up for all the people there. He says, like, no, like on this planet there are many religions and we are all good, and like I was like, oh wow, maybe unity is possible.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
I was gonna say this scene though reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen, I forgot which one, but one of the Bill and Ted movies. There's like a similar room that they're in where like there's like a main bad guy who's doing this whole speech and everyone's like, I won't do that, and like I think the control, a very similar scenario happens, and like that's where my brain kept going. I'm like, this is like Bill and Ted, but it's fucking Vin Diesel instead.
I'm glad your head went there, because guess what movies were produced by producer Scott Krumpf?
The Bill
and Ted, including the
maybe
one that came out
maybe
this
they're
year.
like, fuck it, we'll do the same thing.
Maybe he was like, we need I did this once before.
Let's do it again. Hell, okay, maybe that actually makes more sense now. Maybe my brain was in the right place.
Yeah, Riddick is there, and while everyone else bows in defeat, he stands. He wants to fight.
This is when
the dude.
like our criticism was last time that he was so douchey. I was kind of like, fuck yeah, Vince is gonna fucking destroy everybody here. Like,
because
no problem.
Personally, at this point in the movie, I don't give a shit if this man lives or dies. So at least go out giving revenge on the person that killed a guy you knew. Even if you don't consider him a friend anymore, but he wants to fight the dude with the knife in his back, the one that killed the holy man. Riddick quickly dispatches his target very quickly.
Yeah.
And Lord Marshall there, that was Lord Marshall, right? Or was it just the...
No, it was Lord Marshall.
It was Lord Marshall, he was there? Because I didn't write that name down here because I didn't know his name at this point, or I'd forgotten. Lord Marshall speaks to him. It seems in a past life the two fought, or if it was just like our races are diametrically opposed because
later on
people destroyed.
No, later
people.
on the flashbacks, or not the flashbacks, the visions he has.
Yeah,
it shows because where he's from, I think they mentioned it in the first movie where like, oh, he's one of the last of his kind. He was supposed to die.
Marshall was that soldier.
Yeah, the one that like the Marshal was the ones that invaded him, or either he was a soldier, but he was involved, and that's why he's like, oh, you look familiar, because he probably killed a lot of people that look similar to him. And it wasn't until later on where it clicks for Riddick, where he's like, oh, this is the guy that destroyed like my planet, basically, and turned me into a merc.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting. And this is where we're introduced to the idea of one of the few aspects of their culture, not necessarily their vibe and their aesthetic, but their culture, is the mantra of you keep what you kill. And I don't know if this necessarily earned him anything, but they say it here, and they capture him anyway. Like, I don't know if that was necessarily...
They gave him the knife, yeah. They're like, here you go.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Keep this, and then we're capturing you anyways. But they kind of they did it in a way where it was like, hey, you're cool. Like, you seem like a good warrior. You'd be great in our ranks. So let us show you a tour of, like, our operations.
Dame Tandy Newton, a.k.a. Dame Vaco, says, what if we asked him, or something like that? Like, oh, maybe a man, or whatever, like, schemy kind of way, because her character is a very schemy character, very classic, like, woman of the political man, high important man is using him as a tool kind of thing. That's her character. But that's also where we get Vin Diesel sniffing up Storm on her.
Yeah. Maybe it's only in this world where like sniffing is seen as like not as weird, but just more like, oh, you hot, oh girl.
Riddick is taken to their temple / base. I believe it ended up being the main ship, but I wasn't quite sure what it was at the time. Turns out these people are fucked up. Riddick is put in some gravity chamber, and his thoughts and memories are read aloud.
which is
This is dope.
This is like it's like the Patriot Act, but just 10 times more invasive. Just like, oh, here's also your whole backstory to everyone in this room.
Exactly. We're somehow just digging through your mind, but I love that the device is like these dead people hooked up to machines that are like telepathically communicating with his mind, and like,
Yeah, it's almost like they're vessels for the magic that they use to, I don't know,
because
but
they're
it is
shown a little bit later in a different context.
it's very gothic, and I really, really dig it.
Yeah. Maybe Judi Dench saw this and was like, "Oh, this is a really cool set." How creepy!
How creepy! This was nothing like Cats.
She wasn't in Cats yet. The movie was 2019.
She's an elemental. She sees the future. Remember?
Exactly. I think they're also like a D&D race too. Maybe she played as the air race.
They just played their characters in whatever world it was in.
Exactly. Once they find out that he's a Furion, they attempt to kill him, but old Riddick is just too good and escapes.
Yeah,
It's weird that
it's
they
more of
shut
just
off
like,
the
I'm
gravity.
brute force. I will not be held down, and then escapes.
Riddick is captured by Toombs, the guy from the start of the movie. He has a new crew, and their plan is to take him to anyone who will pay, since he's a convict and all. It was very quickly. He just gets out, and then he's immediately captured.
I kind of like that, though. It kind of just was like, oh, here's that plot. You thought that was over. You thought that was just like an intro to the character. Like, no, they're back. And then he does the whole thing on Riddick. He tries to reverse the script, and then still Riddick is like, no, I kind of planned this too. Like, I was hoping that you'd come rescue me, because I kind of knew that this was possibly a dangerous situation.
He's got a brand new crew, and there's the funny line, or as Riddick is trying to intimidate him, he's like, "Why don't you tell him what happened to your last crew?" It's like, hey, because I'm really dangerous and all. What was I going to say? So he's talking about, they're like, oh, like Riddick is just so smart. He knows everything, right? He knows all the prisons, how far away they are. They can only make it to the one crematoria, right? But the first one that was brought up by Toombs is Butcher Bay, which is...
Yeah, and I heard that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That maybe we'll get to see what that is soon.
I think Butcher Bay, the game, takes place before this movie. And so now I'm thinking it quite literally as it's a prison break game.
Which would be cool.
Because it's a prison. It'd be interesting, yeah. According to the back of the Xbox copy I got, it has the best graphics on Xbox.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
We'll see.
Back at the bad guy's place, they discuss how they're going to take over the system of planets, and Vaco is tasked with hunting down Riddick. Vaco and Dame Vaco talk about overthrowing their leader, Lord Marshall, and Arion is brought forth, Judi Dench. And it's weird, they just keep her around, because I think they just really wanted to have this wise sage person, a seer, but like, she served no purpose. She was a witness, essentially, at first. They captured her as a witness to be like, hey, where did he go? Essentially. But then they just use her like, what are the odds that this happens? But I never really got the sense that she had any sort of mysticism to her. It's more of just her people like to talk in terms of the odds of things because they're neutral. Not necessarily... You pull out a tarot deck, tell me what might happen to me. What are the good chances? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird that they keep her around.
This is the raunchy scene too? Maybe this is where they had to cut part of to get that PG-13 rating, because there was some tongue penetration. It was low key gross. I'm like, is this how they fuck in this universe? Because like that's, I guess, fine. It's just different. But they were like, going in, I just like imagine you have to do multiple takes of that too. Like, okay, you need to really get in there. Like, not just normal makeout. They're like, no, really just penetrate with that tongue, and like let's make sure we get that on film. It's one thing to just like more of a sloppy makeout. Like that was just straight like tongue action. I don't understand what they're.
Yes,
and it was very hate fuck as well. Just a lot of like anger pent up.
They have a bad relationship. That's for sure. Yeah, so that part was reduced in the theatrical version.
I was gonna say,
as well as just. And the part that was also reduced for theatrical version was the amphitheater type situation we talked about earlier, your Bill and Ted thing. That whole speech about what the necromongers do, that was extended in the director's version. So
we want to make sure we extend that the tongue. We didn't want to make them waste that, because that was maybe awkward for both parties. Or I still believe that once you're in Hollywood, like I'm saying, like even like B-list and up, that there's like an app that we don't know about, that like they just all bang each other like
really
all the time.
I am under the impression that once you make it into Hollywood, you one of the things you have to give up, you sacrifice, you know what I mean, like for your wish, is you just lose your sex drive.
Really?
Because I always feel like none of these people fuck.
Oh no, I'm like the opposite. Like I imagine they're just like, especially if you're doing a movie together, like come on. And you're all hot. All of you are hot. And, like, you have to do these scenes where, like, okay, we got to, like, do this and make it look real. How are you practicing that? How are you practicing? You don't know how that tongue's going to be? You don't think there's practice kissing, at least?
Director David Tui comes out and says, all right, let's practice on me. This is how you do it. Like when...
are we filming?
Man of Steel, when Zack Snyder taught Henry Cavill how to snap a neck properly in Man of Steel. That's what I imagine David Tui here. All right, Tandy Newton, this is how you get the tongue action. Let me show you.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, for that scene, that was, like, just so crazy to me that I'm like, there's no way they did not practice that either. I just fully believe everyone bangs each other.
Maybe that was take 7.
I mean, we just need someone to... We need a whistleblower in Hollywood to just say it. I fully believe it. That's why people get married so often and get divorced. It's like just dating at that point. I'm like, people are banging all the time. Or in open relationships. I fully believe that.
That I can definitely see more and more.
Like especially if you're like acting and you're doing a romantic comedy or something. It's like, if you're, let's say Ryan Gosling, like he's kissed a lot of women on screen. You know what I mean? Like, and he's married to, what's her name? Jesus Christ, doesn't matter. In general, I'm just like, how does that not...
He's married to Jesus Christ?
Yes.
That's a bad joke, I'm sorry.
Especially on his near his birthday. How dare you?
It's Ryan Gosling's birthday? Weird. Riddick and his captors are now at crematoria, and after a rough landing, they make it to a shelter from the sun.
I forgot to talk about the weird... we mentioned in the beginning, but the weird rapey... women who I think is just space horny, aka I haven't had sex in 3 decades in cryosleep or whatever.
Probably.
So I'm just space horny. Like anything I see is just...
I mean, she was willing to do it in a very small room filled with other people that could easily wake up at any moment. You know what
that is 100% the case of the space hornies.
That's the space hornies. Space horny over. And she sniffs him 3 times. Riddick is chained up and sent through some hyper tunnel with his captors. He kills one, and the others don't seem to mind. But that was like a justified, like, he sat on you.
He talked all this shit, and he timed the lights going by, which was super cool. And he's just like, okay, the next one's going to be in the next 2 seconds. He just counted 1, 2, kicked him up, gone. And then the other guy's like, what happened? And they're like, oh, well, more money for us. Some like classic bounty hunters, or group of bounty hunters.
Exactly. I hate that when they finally reach the end of their tunnel, I just said Vin Diesel knows, but Riddick knows that it was 24.9 kilometers. Just fuck off.
I sold on this character. Like I changed my mind as the movie has gone on. That I'm just like, you know what, like. Sure, I'm just like that is
fucking turning into like Sherlock Holmes or like, and you know what I mean, just like just supercomputer brain action star.
Dude,
like,
high IQ. All right, high IQ.
Yeah,
it's part of the animal side. You don't realize you can count speed.
Riddick has been handed over now, and he's being lowered into whatever the prison planet from Alien 3 was. Wow, I wrote this in here before knowing about that. His captors and the prison warden argue and discuss the payment that they'll receive. The captors are going to stay the night, but as they come to an agreement, Riddick breaks free of his chain, which I thought was going to be more of like a escape scene, but instead it was, I guess, just a guard was going to come over and unchain him was probably the idea, but instead he just breaks free. So after a quick fight, he meets Jack, the little girl from the first movie. She shows him up, and her name is Kira now.
She is the only place I know her from. She is Julia in Man in the High Castle. She's like the main character. So I thought that was cool. I'm like,
Really?
I haven't seen her in anything else, but then I saw her. I'm like, oh shit, she's in this. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah. So fun fact for you. The kid that did play, the original kid that played Jack, did not play Kira in this movie. She auditioned, but Vin Diesel told her to toughen up. Because I guess, obviously we know in this movie she's doing a lot of, action stuff. So she had 3 weeks of kickboxing lessons, but did not get the role. She did, however, voice the character in Dark Fury, the animated side story we're going to watch for next month.
Damn,
that was interesting.
So could you imagine
the little girl to toughen up?
Yeah, you gotta toughen up, and then also tell. But you're also like, Judi Dench, we need you. But you also told Judi Dench to toughen up, and she beat him up. She beat him up to get the role.
Exactly.
But her name is Alexa Davalos.
Got a long ass last name, right?
Davalos, Davalos, Davalos.
And when I was looking this up, because I wanted to make sure I had the character's name correctly, I opened up IMDb, and I noticed that she wasn't in the future Riddick movies. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Maybe. Oh, well, then I finally learned, oh, yeah, she dies. So I had it minorly spoiled. Just like, she's not in the next one. Interesting. No one ever lives in these movies. So we meet Kira now, but she kind of scampers off a bit. She's got this whole, like, she really idolized Riddick for some stupid reason, and it's now taken on, like, that identity. She wants to be him, like, all the things, and it's the classic, like, person idolizes the byproducts of this other person, not the things that the byproducts are a byproduct of.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, she loves and idolizes the animal instincts of him and all that, but, like, doesn't realize it comes from a lonely, untrustworthy, needing to be brutal type
kind of
a
genocidal upbringing. His whole family was destroyed. I mean, this is even kind of like, I know you haven't seen maybe the second season, but The Mandalorian has this kind of stuff too, of like, there's a difference between someone wearing Mandalorian armor and someone being a Mandalorian or being part of that race or Kree. So I feel like it's, what you're saying here, it's like she acts like she knows everything about him or what he is. And
she's like 17 in this movie.
Yeah, and at one point later on, he becomes preachy again, but it's kind of right the whole time, where he's like, I was trying to protect you. Most people,
you were 12.
You were 12. I also don't do this for everybody. I try to tell you to do the opposite of what I do, but you did it anyways. And like, this is what happens. Like, this is the result, and you're here now. I'm more badass though, so I'm gonna get out, but you aren't.
Like you said, it's only parts of the preachy Riddick character that makes sense. A learn from my mistakes type of preachiness works for this character,
which I would argue is more humbling, if anything, in a way, than it is I am better than you. But
back with Vaco, we get some monarchy politics stuff, whatever. But then we cut to Dame interrogating Arion, and she and Vaco learn of Riddick's origin. And this is super cool. We see those dead people, like mysticism, machinery types things, but they're just using them as walkie-talkies.
They're like it's like a Zoom call or something,
right? Where it's just like, this scene was not in the theatrical version either. By
Interesting.
The way. This was cut. Yeah. Just making sure I don't miss any of them. But yeah, like that was a dope scene. Like,
I liked it.
And then that
was where the science fiction part came in, and I always say this: a good science fiction film is truly science fiction when, like, they try to either make something that feels like it would be realistic in that world, or something that maybe we one day can have. I don't know if we'll one day be able to talk to other people through dead bodies, but in that world that they made, this fantasy dark universe that like, oh yeah, they use these bodies for everything, like for energy. It seems like that's their life source, and it's like, yep, they even use it for phone calls across the universe.
And, you pair that to their culture, their view of like through death is the threshold to actually living. Like they probably like, I bet their funerals are very like elaborate and interesting, because their culture is all about celebrating death, their people's death, in the right way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I think science fiction does a good indicator of good science fiction or a science fantasy like Star Wars is when you have something that does look futuristic, but also doesn't seem any more convenient or as useful as what the obvious suggestion would be. They have like iPad type shit. Just do a video call. You know what I mean? That would feel like that is what would be.
Or even just like they had an earpiece and a secret earpiece, and they just communicate that way.
But no, like this has a futuristic feel to it. You know what I mean? In a way that is different, and it's less convenient than a face-to-face video call. But I like when science fiction does this as well. This is interesting that this scene was cut, because at the very end of the scene we see the purifier, the guy that was given the speech in the amphitheater type situation earlier. He sees them, and my thought was always going to snitch on the king. Obviously, we learn later what happens with him, but so it's interesting that they cut it, because that is important context. Maybe they thought, well, we'll cut the whole thing because maybe we'll just confuse people, because obviously he's not
mislead people. But I don't think they ever mislead it, because like once we find out the truth later on, I'm like, oh, so that's why they didn't say anything. Like the whole time I was like waiting for there to be a scene next where he reports to Lord Marshall, be like, oh, by the way, your boy Vaco there, he's gonna betray you, he's gonna usurp you, FYI. Nope, never get that scene. Then we find out later why. I thought maybe that was gonna be a missed thing, and nope, they had a different route with it, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, so interesting. Riddick takes a shower with his clothes on. Good thing too, because 17-year-old child Kira is watching.
I don't know if the laws are the same there. I don't know. Not saying it's appropriate. It's still, once again, Vin Diesel or Riddick is being sexually harassed.
Yeah, he does it more often than he does it to anyone else in this movie. That is actually true. First time. But it's feeding time now, and some alien panthers are let loose to feed on the prisoners that cannot make it back to their cages. Riddick is able to tame one, which is pretty cool. But the fuck was this about?
Was this again just to show like he's half animal? But yeah, if this is something, was this added in the? Do you know if this was part of the director's cut or not?
There was a different. Deleted scenes, yes, but it's a different idea about how they were going to use these panthers. Was they were going to be a part of the escape attempt. Essentially, Toombs there was going to die by the one that Vin Diesel tamed, but they changed it, so there was no payoff for these at all,
except just being like
around.
The only thing I can argue, when not saying this is, I don't think this is a good way to show it, because clearly the fact that we're confused proves this point, is that maybe they're trying to say like they're trying to make it seem like, okay, everyone, there might be some top dogs in this like jailed community or whatnot, like there's people who kind of run the show a little bit or are respected amongst the others, but none of them can fight against these panthers or whatnot, right? And like maybe this is a way of them being like, or showing or they're trying to show that Riddick was now going to be the top dog in this
something.
But even then, it's still not established really well. No. Yeah, I feel like they could have cut that, or just shown that, like either that or like have Vin fight them and beat them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They don't use these panthers for anything in the final cut. They were going to use them for a fight scene, but they don't. So they They're introduced for no
Yeah,
reason.
either just don't have them at all or have some sort of like...
Which makes me ask too many questions about what the purpose is.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest questions is, well, now that I've heard someone say it's feeding time, now I'm thinking about how these motherfuckers actually eat. The prisoners, what are they eating?
Rats,
you don't actually see
or
you know what I mean?
bugs, I don't know. Other people, too.
And I mean,
rations.
Quite frankly, if you're willing to just kill your prisoners, why don't you just kill them then?
I think there's...
Or do you
And
just
that goes to, like, the whole... I think just... What's worse, punishment of death or punishment of life forever in a shitty place. So maybe that's part of it. We kind of also get the idea that like this facility, the people who run it are just kind of like malicious in that way, where they like to see them, kill each other below, and there's that sort of just classic
Quite the
jail
opposite of
warden
Alien 3 in that sense.
jail warden being just
Like,
in love with his
aloof.
job. Yeah.
Good example of this is some guards grope Kira, so she kills them, but is taken down. Riddick is there now too and kills one.
I love that
forgot.
her like they're like looking for knives or whatnot, right? And then it turned into a groping situation. And I like how that like I was like, okay, where is she gonna have it in her mouth again? Because earlier on she cut Vin or Riddick with she had like some sort of thing in her mouth, like some sort of
Something sharp.
Yeah, and cut his face. Not really that bad, but just enough to be like, oh, I got you. I'm fast too now. But I like how like I was not expecting there to be knives in the end of her boot, and she just gets him right in the gooch. Like I'm like, and then she does some couple flips and then gets him again, and I'm like,
you ain't having kids.
I'm like, he's already down for the count. You didn't even need to do all the cool fancy
Just
moves.
Kills him. Yeah,
Just like right in the gooch like that.
They definitely wanted to establish that she has gone the lengths to be Riddick enough to be desensitized to the idea of killing people. She will kill people, and yes. This place, they probably done more than just this one instance of groping her. I bet she's probably been raped. You know what I mean? So I'm sure it's justified in her mind for doing this violence. But again, like she's gone to lengths of just like wanting to be Riddick so much that like she just kills people. She's kind of proud.
And this shows too that she's handled herself down here in this place, even though maybe Riddick thinks otherwise.
They know she keeps blades on her. She has, you know what I mean, a history in that sense. But Riddick kills one of them with a teacup.
Which was I like that. I like how he came out with they introduced him. This is back to the douchey thing that I think has grown on me with this character that originally I didn't like in Pitch Black. Maybe it's a little bit different here. Where
to cut you off one more time, sorry. It's different when he's a douche to the good guys for no reason than he is being a douche in defense of other people.
I think that's fair. I think that is the difference. That's why I like it more. Is I feel like in this movie, it's more often than not that he's dunking on either another bad guy or.
Right. Because in the first movie, they're all good guys because they're all just trying to get out. You know what I mean? He's just a douche for no reason, and here it's like he's just picking on the bad guys.
Yeah, and I like how he confidently is like, I'm gonna kill you with this tin can. The guy laughs, and then he just in like a split second just. I don't even know how that works, but he did it, and I'm like, sure, like, and I'd be scared too.
I think he set it down face down on the rock, so that he could smash it a bit, just to like shatter the edges, so then just drive into a man's chest, which is interesting. You have a sternum there, so like there's that rib cage, but
yeah,
he kills him anyway. Riddick learns of a possible escape route he might take, and we cut to the warden finishing the deal with the Riddick's captors. It goes down south when everyone starts killing each other with guns and stuff. Riddick is able to use this as his escape, and lets the other prisoners out of their cells and formulate a plan. Riddick, this is like the first time where I had to be like, oh wow, he's not being convinced to help them. He's just doing it. You know what I mean? In the first movie, he didn't give a shit about any of these people. And yeah, like he has a little bit of growth in the sense of like, the very end, at the very least, you could come to the conclusion that if you have nothing to lose, you might as well help people that aren't bad to you. Because at the very least, you might have sex with that woman if she's alive. But you know what I mean. At the very least, you do. It's easier to make friends. You know, so this is something to show that he's grown.
Or this is another like writing criticism is that he knows that even though he's a god, he still going to need some help to get out of here. And I think he might realize that he needs to tell everyone else what's going on so they can maybe help him get out of here. And at the end of the day, he's going to probably say fuck them when he has the opportunity to.
He definitely doesn't care when any of them dies, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, you have no reason not to. It doesn't take anything away from you. You might as well. And you're such a badass God-fearing person that you could kill anyone that tries to backstab you for this. Plus, he's got Kira, who he does want to protect, at the very least, more than he would protect other people.
Yeah.
So you might as well go the whole route. Plus, then, hey, if there are monsters out here, there's more people that they could eat that aren't you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Have a herd. A herd of sheep. A couple will live. So now Riddick is leading the escapees. Oh yeah, by the way, they chained up Tomb. They put him in a cage next to the two giant panthers, which is a different scene because he was supposed to die by the one that Vin Diesel tamed, by Riddick tamed. But
I think that would have been cooler.
Yeah, I don't know why they changed it, but in any case, so now Riddick is leading the escapees across the destroyed and craggy wasteland to a ship in the pitch black dark in an attempt to escape the sun.
Oh my god.
This is obviously very reminiscent of Pitch Black, just like how in the good part of Pitch Black, essentially, just like how the group starts very big, and by the end of it, I forgot how many people we had because there's like 2 or 3 people left. They don't even like show them really getting picked off.
I like how too it's almost reverse to the first one. And the first one is like you didn't want the sun to go down, and on this one you don't want the sun to go up. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that at all. Very interesting.
Huh.
Fuck off.
Sorry, my Riddick was coming out there.
Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about like one of the coolest visual aspects about this movie are the lensers, the creepy dudes with the giant, violet infrared.
Oh yeah, they're like seekers or like heat seekers.
Yeah, and they got like a gaming controller tied to their back so you could see what they're looking at. How fucking one of them sees like billions of miles through space.
It was very like Frankenstein in a way, where it was like once again, this is a world where there's spaceships and hyperspace and all that, guns, and they're like, you would assume that they'd have some sort of technology that could just do basic infrared, or like they have in Aliens there, an alien, the radar, the sonar, or whatever it is. You would think that they would have that, but they're like, no, let's make this cool and have these like minion dudes that are somehow maybe lesser than the I guess I don't want to say human counterparts.
They're like living machines, just like the dead bodies used for the other machines. It's cool.
Yeah.
Some of the people that were in those suits or whatever that were the lensers were from Cirque du Soleil, by the way.
That's cool.
They don't do any flips or anything, but their movement's creepy. I feel like you could just mocap Andy Serkis one time and just duplicate it, and you probably got it. So yeah, they're attempting to escape the sun. Meanwhile, the prison guards try to cut them off, and Riddick gets a few of them. He gets a few. Basically, there's just obviously one long underground tunnel to their escape route, to like the aircraft that they're trying to get to, but they're running on top, but the guards are underneath.
One artistic choice I liked, which they didn't do anywhere else in this movie. I noticed it this way, because for the most part, there's always music on or whatnot in the background. Maybe during some dialogue, there's like no like sound in the back besides maybe just like some static to make it sound like a room or whatever it is. But at the part where like they're like in the bunker looking thing that pops out, and they're the guards were gonna shoot them running.
Mm-hmm.
Right when the gunfire starts, there is no other sound effects. It's just straight gunfire, and I thought that was really cool. That like they're like, here's an action scene. Here's probably how it would sound if you were there. Just there's no intense music or action music. It's just
everyone's covered in just the giant puffy ash.
Yeah, and then everyone's just you just hear the gunfire and stuff. And I thought that was cool that they did that, just to kind of change it up a little bit and not make it just another scene where there's people shooting at each other. So I thought that was cool. Kind of like a war movie in that way. A lot of war movies, more at 21st century ones, I think, do that where they just don't have any music playing. It's just to get that realism in there. They'll have just
the intensity.
Yeah, just here's the gunfire, the bombs going off, or the planes flying overhead. That might be the only thing you hear. So I thought that was interesting. So props to the editors.
Props to Vin Diesel,
Props to Vin.
The sun is almost upon them while they scale a cliff. Then it is upon them, and the whole place is erupting. When they get stopped halfway up the cliff, and they're hiding in the shade, and it just seems like, okay, as long as they're in the shade, they're fine. Wait till nighttime. Perfect. Yeah, maybe they'll steal the ship, but at least you won't die. Oh, the volcano is happening, or whatever.
Well, well, once they take that ship, that's it. No one's ever going to come back there or anything like that. They were all going to die. So I understood the urgency there. They made it pretty clear to me that this is the only ship off this rock, and
just like in the first movie.
But then they also know that the bad guys are coming, so maybe steal one of their ships. But it seemed like the whole fleet was coming that way. Or no, it was just Vaco there. So maybe I guess they could have just stole that. So I guess that was. Well, I guess you're right. They could have waited, but maybe they just didn't want to take that chance, or they didn't want to deal with Vaco if you don't have to, which is fair. You don't want to fight the people who are from the Neverworld or whatever it's called, the Underverse.
But Kira is down below, and Riddick douses himself in water and uncharted his way over to Kira and gets them to safety. So it's just basically Riddick, Kira, and then two other prisoners, and then it's just the Riddick and Kira. The other two just die, which is just like the first movie.
I like how because Vaco get there right before they are about to cross the way, and they're like, "Shit, we have to hide." And they're like, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" And then it cuts to those seekers again, and they see them behind the rock, and they start to get alerted, and so they go that way. And they're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do?" And then Vin's like, just wait. And I'm like, once again, Riddick's thinking 5 steps ahead, knows that the guards were actually going to beat them, and this was kind of like a plan the entire time, was for them to fight while we kind of just sneak by and get the ship and ditch. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. That was my interpretation as well. He was waiting for them to, because they had a long walk to get to them. At the very least, wait it out a little bit. If nothing happens, then fight them if you can. But you might as well wait for them. They're almost at the ship, but Vaco and the necromongers just landed, and they get into a fight with the guards. So Riddick and crew use this as a cover to fight their way to the ship. This whole fight scene was shortened in the theatrical version. Apparently a lot of sound effects that were deemed too violent, like I mentioned earlier, were cut. Certain scenes were cut. This is the full cut of it. They used every scene that they shot, apparently, for this. Including when Vaco shoots Riddick with a blaster. Kira goes to save him. She's doing kind of a couple hits and runs and darts away, and then hits and runs and darts away. She's always too far away from him or right on top of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a couple weird instances like that, but at the same time, she don't have a gun and the other guys do. So do whatever you got to do to stay alive. Riddick gets another vision from his Furian past, which grants him the super energy blasting powers that wipe out all the people around him, which was not in the theatrical version, which is crazy.
So how does he
just shoot him, and then he's just down, and then just the carnage? I don't know how they managed to make it end that way, but Yeah, like his people have energy in them or something.
Spartan rage. I thought of just like in God of War how if you get beat up enough, you can just L3 and R3 to activate your Spartan rage and just hits all the enemies and then you go ham. But it was more of just like his like life essence just exploded. But it wasn't enough though.
No, it was not enough. Not enough at all. The sun catches up again, and everyone gets to shade but Riddick, who is passed out and lying in the sun. Vaco assumes him to be dead, or at least thinks he will die in a couple seconds. I don't know why he wouldn't just wait to watch him burn up.
Throw a spear in him, something.
Exactly, they just shoot him, you know what I mean? A couple times, whatever. Vaco takes Kira and his men to their ship, and they leave. But the Purifier, by the way, who's been in a few scenes before, pulls Riddick to safety, and we learn that he's Furion. And but it's one of those things where there's been a few times where we kind of got the impression that these people aren't necessarily mind wiped or brainwashed, but they are converted. Like they're still there, and he was converted. He's a Furion, and he says some line about how like he did unimaginable things for a faith that was not his. That line that he says was improvised. He forgot what his line was, so he said that instead, and they kept it in.
Yeah, he also says, the Fury in me knows you won't listen. Like he's telling him to stay
don't
here.
Get yourself killed.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah. He then tells Riddick to stop Lord Marshall, and then he walks off into the sun to die. I guess he was just...
I think he knew that, like, if he was just going to die anyways there, so he might as well just make it quick, and I guess it's not that quick, but better than...
He's dying on his terms.
Yeah, and the prisoner is not coming in there, or the security, whoever's left on this planet. So I'm assuming everyone on this planet dies who didn't run away with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either starvation or whatnot, so...
Yeah, well, especially Toombs, who's in that cage. He's going to starve to death.
Or they'll get through the gate and eat him up.
If they're hungry enough, they will, yeah. Back on Helion Prime, Vaco is awarded for killing Riddick, and Dame schemes further with him, but then they learn that Riddick survived and is on their ship.
They had a cool shot where, like... a scene where she's like walking by all confidently like, yeah, my plan's about to work, and then like she gets like brushed upon, like someone hits their shoulder and she realizes that's Riddick, and like she winds up trying to get back towards him, and he looks back and you just see the blue eyes and the armor, and I'm like, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's a dope shot.
Exactly. He Assassin's Creeded that. He Hitman'd that. He killed someone, took their clothes. Riddick is sneaking his way through their ship and attacks the Lord Marshal. He reveals that Kira has now converted, and Riddick and Marshall fight to the death. Vaco is waiting for his chance to hop in. Basically, the whole idea was that, I can't take on Lord Marshall by myself, but if Riddick beats him up a bit, I can maybe do the killing blow, and it's like League of Legends where it only matters who does the final blow. That's the only person that gets the reward.
Classic online multiplayer games.
Yeah. We're almost done, but then we'll talk about this whole idea in a second. Riddick is down, and Marshall attempts to yank out his soul, but Vin Diesel yells, "Fuck you," and uppercuts him. The only swear in this movie. This unrated take.
I like that too.
You.
It's like not even like there's not any like sort of spiritual or even like magical plot armor, so to say. It's just like, no, I'm stronger. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Yeah. Exactly. There's not even like a cool line of like, you're not going to take my soul, or like,
I thought it was going to be like, oh,
like,
you have no soul, or something like that.
So
like,
he's an animal.
Yeah, or something like that. Or your soul isn't even of this world or something. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
Because he's Fury and his soul is energy that hurts Lord Marshall.
Yeah.
No, Vin Diesel just
Or he has all
fuck
the
you
spirits of his ancestors in him or something. It's more than one.
Yeah. Instead, he Little Max him, uppercuts him to a knockout. This causes Marshall to grab a spear and no longer fight fair. But Kira stabs him. It's not enough, though, and she's thrown into a spike pillar. She's thrown into a spiked pillar. Vaco jumps down to kill Marshall, while Kira dies. Riddick is able to get the killing blow, though, and becomes their king or whatever. Kira dies while Riddick talks to her, and as she passes, he sees the necromongers kneel before him. And Vin Diesel says, as he sits on their throne, which looks actually more like a bench, "You keep what you kill," and we cut to the credits. So,
Which reminded me of, sorry to make another God of War reference, but the end of God of War, where he kills Ares and he sits on the throne, and even his posture and everything was very, very similar. But I know it's just like man on throne. But I just thought of it as that's what I thought of.
God of War was what, 2005?
Yeah, or maybe
2004.
So maybe it was inspired. Maybe, who knows?
Maybe. Very weird. Okay, so Devin, let's say you and I are in this giant religious cult empire, and we're in this throne room, right? Someone just kills our king. Why the hell would we just bow to this person?
And also
that
not
we've
in
been
a
hunting?
way, like I guess at least with Riddick's, at least for Riddick's sake, or an argument for Riddick is that it was a one-on-one fight for the most part, and I guess he would say it's fair, or like it was a fight that was happening. When Vaco was about to stab him in the back for like a cheap kill, if I'm there witnessing this, would be like, okay, it's one thing if like Riddick beats him fair and square. It's like, okay, he's our best fighter. I'm assuming Lord Marshall is like the most powerful.
They're not just gonna be like, "Oh, it's you." Yeah,
Yeah, but if it's Vaco who just all of a sudden like stabs him in the back, or let's say, I don't know what their other example was going to be, like kill him in his sleep or something. I don't know, but like I would have been
a non-honorable way.
Yeah, I'd have been like,
for sure.
No, this is a usurp. This is not right. You know what I mean? And instead, like I understand maybe if it was just like, I challenge you for the throne, like I think your leadership is
Black
bad.
Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther or something. Yeah, for sure. But no.
So yeah, because then it's a literal interpretation of the mantra "keep what you kill." Literal interpretation.
I would never sleep at night if I was any sort of leadership position in this.
What do they eat? Because if they're eating animals, I'm sorry, only the butchers are eating, because you keep what you kill.
Yeah, if you're taking it that literally, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but also just the idea, like, this threat to your people, who you've been hunting, kills your king. Now you're going to treat him as your king? No, you swarm the fucker and you kill him. Vin Diesel would die. You know what I mean? If all of them attacked him, he would die. He has no weapons. Yes, he'll take out quite a bit because he's Vin Diesel, but he'll still die eventually. They just crash the shit. They could do whatever.
The only thing I can think of is like, since we had a character like the Purifier, and also you can argue for Vaco and Dave Vaco, their main, at least for the Vacos, their main thing was they just want the power, right? When someone maybe like Purifier, if this happened and he was alive there, he'd probably be okay with it because it's someone of his Kree taking the throne, or maybe it's just, I don't like Lord Marshall. Maybe like it's not even the religious part of this that is at this point like their main problem. Like it is that it's their situation that they're in, whatever. But maybe they just don't like the king, and like I guess maybe they'll fix that maybe in Riddick if it's even a thing. I'm assuming it picks up right where we left off. But yeah, the fact that we went from just another merc kind of douchey character is now like, oh, now he's in control of this
empire,
this huge
What's he gonna do with
group of religious faction.
Yeah,
which he doesn't believe in. He has never shown any interest in.
It's a cool ending.
It is a cool ending. It's just I don't know where they're going to take this.
No idea. It could be something as simple as you don't actually see them, and it's just said or implied that he sent them away or something. Or they could go in any direction with it, which is a lot more than they could at the end of Pitch Black. Also, our final difference between theatrical and directorial cut of this movie is that line at the end where he says, "Keep what you kill." In the theatrical version, it's Vaco saying it. Like, it's a voiceover of him. And Judi Dench apparently says a few things, because she narrated at the very beginning of the movie. So she, like, just to bookend it, says something at the end. But I guess the director's cut, he really wanted to end with a quick cut to black after Vin Diesel says, "Keep what you kill," and then just slightly begins to smile. So I have two quick little trivia things that I did not get to, that I actually just forgot. So when they are landing on Crematoria, Toombs has a line where he says, "If I owned hell in Crematoria, I'd rent out Crematoria and live in hell."
Yeah.
This is a reference to a line General Phil Sheridan made in the Civil War about Texas. If I owned Texas in hell, I'd rent out Texas.
There you go. I like my history facts. Thank you.
Yeah. And then also, you know that three-way fight scene I mentioned earlier, where with the energy blast and all that stuff? They filmed that on Vin Diesel's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Fun fact.
This would be a cool scene to shoot on your birthday.
But yeah, so that was the Chronicles of Riddick. Our 12th movie thing. But our episode 10 of the Chronicles of Diesel was for the Chronicles of Riddick. Sorry, I'm tired. At the end of these episodes, we're going to talk about what we thought about this movie and then Vin Diesel's performance, and we rank both of these two things on their own merits, right? So, as a movie, we're going to be ranking this. First off, though, I know we talked about this at the beginning, but did you like this movie? You know what I mean? Like, what your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, so I said earlier that I liked this movie. I don't think I loved it. I think it was definitely, it went a complete opposite direction of Pitch Black, which I think I am okay with. Even though I think the ending of Pitch Black was cool. Just I didn't like really the beginning, the first half of that movie, because it was just kind of a bunch of boring dialogue, bunch of characters that are good guys, but not ones I really care about. Like, I guess they hope they live, but I really don't care too much. So I was curious to see how they were going to take it. I was not expecting a Vin Diesel against everybody.
Right.
Kind of.
You're not expecting 300.
Yeah, not expecting 300. I was expecting maybe he just gets involved in another situation, another like situation he was on with in Pitch Black, whatever planet that was called.
I think we predicted that it was going to be, he's going to land on some planet, it's going to be small-scale threat, and he's just in another dangerous situation. Not the fate of the universe is now literally in your hands by the end of this movie.
Yeah, they made him more of a superhero or an anti-hero at the end of this. But yeah, I found myself liking his character more, and I think you kind of diagnosed why, or at least identified why, which is that he's a jerk mostly only to the bad guys or characters that we don't really care about, or people that put him in danger or others in danger. So he isn't as unlikable in that way. I really like this movie. I don't know if I'd watch this again anytime soon.
Did you like it more than Pitch Black?
Yeah, I would say I was more interested, even though like it wasn't amazing. It was entertaining for the most part. I think it was a little too long, but we also watched the director's cut. So maybe next time I'd watch the theatrical version just to save me 15 minutes. I don't know. But
it's not a good sign about liking the movie if you're thinking about.
I just think it was
there
were some moments that dragged, or just scenes that like him with the animal was like cool, but why? Stuff like that, where I think that warranted being cut. I don't know, but I think it's a cool world that they're building. Definitely has my interest peaked of like, okay, if all this is happening, what else can they do with this? Yeah, like
Right.
what else is there in this world? Are they going to, for the next one, are they going to do more of a science fiction route? Or are they going to keep going this high fantasy, arguably, route that they're going in? I don't know, but it's definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. I think the movie is fine, and I liked it.
And it's crazy too. The next Riddick movie is in 2013. This movie came out in 2004.
God damn! By the time we get back to this,
it's the 20th episode we have planned out is for Riddick.
So another 10 episodes, another 10 months from now.
Yes.
Damn.
We're gonna finally go back to Riddick.
I might have to. I just said I might not watch this movie again. I might have to just to make sure I'm prepared.
Yeah, for sure. I liked the movie. I thought it was fun. As we said, like his character was more palatable this time around because there was an actual bad guys to pit him against, and not just survivors that he's with that maybe think of him differently, think of him as an animal, but at the same time he also doesn't care what people think. So I liked him a lot more in this movie. I think some of the action was a lot better. I do miss the alien, just a straight up aliens threat from that first movie, but because I don't necessarily like empire politic drama stories. I just don't,
especially
really
in
care.
Science fiction, where I feel like that's been done.
300.
That's been done a lot.
Yeah.
In the sense of Star Wars, doesn't Star Trek have some big threat?
The Borg.
Yeah.
They literally do this too. They take over and they make you into them. So, like, it's very I don't want to say it's unoriginal. I liked their aesthetic and their idea about their culture. I wish we had more of that.
Maybe we will in Riddick.
I mean, he's their fucking king now. maybe the side story, because there's also so next month we're going to be doing 2 Chronicles of Riddick stuff. Dark Fury, which is an animated side story. It's about half an hour. And then we're going to be doing the Escape from Butcher Bay, the original Xbox video game. So that's for next month. Both of those things. Episode 16-ish, unless anything changes. One of the things we're doing for that is another Chronicles of Riddick video game called Assault on Dark Athena, which is a name we haven't heard yet. So,
and it sounds like it could be loosely related to this.
Maybe.
Like if he's if they're like invading something, or I don't know, but
and then it's the 2013 film Riddick. There's also a 6-minute short animated film called Blindsided.
The Blind Side
episode as well. Yeah, exactly.
Sandra Bullock in it again.
Oh God. She was in a
Gravity.
Yes, she was also in a terrible movie where she's a political advisor or a campaign manager.
Which one? I don't even know.
For some Central American country, and she went up against her rival was played by Billy Bob Thornton, who's a great actor. I liked this movie, but at the same time, I don't think it was super amazing because of the elements I don't really care about. And it reminded me of movies that I like more. I'm an Alien 3 apologist. I liked Alien 3 more than I liked this movie. And I liked the escape from the aliens at the end of Pitch Black more than I liked the escape from the sun in this movie.
The rush for time.
At the same time, this movie looked way better than Pitch Black. The set design was great. The cinematography was a lot better. The music, there was a theme. A theme.
Which was kind of cool. It was neat.
Yeah, and I recognized it. The fact that, and I'm terrible at recognizing musical scores. I recognized his music. I'm one of these people that was like, yeah, the Avengers have a theme song, but like Iron Man's song is great, Captain America's song is great. I'm like, they have songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, go back and watch the movie. It's like, oh yeah, I guess. Like, I just don't pick up on the musical stuff, but I could recognize this, which to me is a feat. You know what I mean? So like, this movie was made a whole lot better than Pitch Black was, because obviously their budget went way up as well. So this isn't the best movie on the list in my opinion, but it's far from the worst, if that makes sense. So let's talk about what our rankings were as of yesterday, and then place this on there. So for just the movie rankings themselves, this is less to do with Vin Diesel, his performance. We mentioned him when we were discussing the movie, but that was more about like the character and like what it actually meant for this movie. Just the movie rankings themselves. Number 1, we have Saving Private Ryan. Number 2, Triple X. Number 3, The Fast and the Furious. Number 4, The Iron Giant. 5 was Awakenings. 6, A Man Apart. 7, Boiler Room. 8, Pitch Black. 9, Knockaround Guys. 10, Multifacial. And 11, Strays. So, I think we both agreed that this movie is better than Pitch Black. So that automatically puts it at least number 8. So really, then, it has to start fighting up the list with Boiler Room, A Man Apart, and Awakenings before we get to The Iron Giant. And I don't really know where I want to put this movie.
I think right above Pitch Black. I like A Man Apart more because I feel like it was a much more straight-lined story, and it did it well. You know, I mean, it got the job done. It wasn't anything too elaborate. There wasn't any... Like, this one had a lot of, like, plots and subplots, some from the first movie that... like I said, I think this movie, though, did a good job of... it's hard to tell, though, because we didn't watch this without watching Pitch Black, but I feel like if you didn't watch Pitch Black and watch this, you'll probably be fine. You might be missing the importance of meeting... what's her name there? Towards the middle part of the film. But it's not the end of the world either, because they didn't have that great of a connection in Pitch Black. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
That's the thing. If you didn't see Pitch Black, you would have thought there was a lot more going on between the two of them by the way that this movie treats it. Yeah, you're right.
So I feel like just that is like one criticism, but it's a sequel, so it's kind of hard to knock it for that. Like you have to assume your audience watched the first one, but at the same time, you don't want to for marketing reasons or ticket sales. It's like not everyone's going to watch the first one. Like, how many people go see Star Wars maybe without actually seeing the previous ones? That's how good Star Wars does. Or even Avengers. How many people went and saw Avengers
Marvel,
and didn't watch every single Marvel film? If you did, you probably got extra nuggets in there that you might have enjoyed, but
I had family members that during quarantine marathoned them all since they're all on Disney Plus. They were like, oh, wow, this makes a whole lot more sense. These are really good. You know what I mean? Because they just watch them.
And that could be a critique of them, is that I think even a sequel movie needs to give at least something. There can't be too much confusion for someone who's never seen outside of that. I feel like that and that's probably a criticism of like the latter Avenger films.
The title of this movie has nothing to do with the title of the first movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I feel like you kind of have to...
You wouldn't even know. Yeah.
But
in fact, we watched this on HBO Max, and it says in the description, the sequel to Pitch Black. You know? Like, it has to say that, because how else would you know? You know?
I don't know. I like it
we have
above Pitch Black, but I don't know if I like it more than Man Apart, just because Man Apart
in between the two of them is Boiler Room. So it goes A Man Apart, Boiler Room, Pitch Black. So do you think it's better than Boiler Room?
I mean, Boiler Room it's so hard to compare these movies.
I think this is way more of a fun movie. That was more of a serious drama with stakes.
Yeah.
Like FBI stakes.
This had stakes, but it was fun stakes.
A lot more fun.
That's tough.
But
I don't know.
I do agree. To put my thoughts, I do agree with you about A Man Apart. Number one, I don't think this movie was better than Awakenings. It's once we get Awakenings, Iron Giant, and up there, these has to be great movies.
Yeah.
This was just a good movie. So A Man Apart is the top good movie in this kind of ranking bracket. And one of the things we like to kind of measure by is, would I watch this again?
That's usually our tiebreaker when we really can't decide.
Would I watch this again? I think I would, but I don't really know if I would.
It's one of those, if it's on TV and I'm cleaning the house, rewatchabilities. There's a difference between that. There's a difference between that and just not like ever. Like, even if it was on, I'd switch the channel. That's that for like multi or knockaround guys. I probably would switch the channel.
Yeah.
Unless like someone was over, I'm like, have you seen this? It's
Exactly. I would watch A Man Apart over this movie.
Yes.
So I am also with you on it going below A Man Apart. As far as Boiler Room goes, I don't know.
Boiler Room is...
I feel like again, like I praised, the cinematography of this movie because I think it was a giant upgrade over Pitch Black. And I'm trying to remember Boiler Room. To me, I think it was just a put together movie. You know what I mean? They had good actors in it.
Yeah, a good story
based off a real story.
It felt like just like a Man Apart. It's more streamlined. It's not. I feel like there was moments where Chronicles of Riddick, I'm like, where is this going?
Are we going to spend forever on this planet? Is this going to end on the prison planet?
Yeah.
No, it's going to end on the spaceship.
Is it going to end on the first planet we're on? I feel like you hyped up this big, large city, and then we're never really on it. But is it, that just comes down to personal taste, though? You know what I mean? But
yeah.
But I think Boiler Room is better directed, better written. Characters, maybe it's lesser than I prefer the characters in Chronicles of Riddick over Boiler Room, but that's also like everyone's bad. I don't like people who work or work stocks normally. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of biased in that way, but I don't know. I'm kind of just putting it below Boiler Room and just putting it right above Pitch Black. That's kind of where I'm at.
The more I think about it, number one, I am disappointed that this movie wasn't as awesome as we believed The Fast and the Furious and Triple X were. The first of each of the three main pillars of his career should have been amazing, and this one, well, Pitch Black was, but like this is the namesake of our.
I think it's getting there.
Podcast.
It just has a little bit more. It needs to be. I feel like they are trying to world build maybe too much here. Have too many.
It's like they jumped
ideas.
straight to Thor 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like Thor 2 sucked.
This is the Thor. It does feel like a Thor 2, where like
Space Army, Galactic Empire. The threat is so
insane.
I don't even understand like what the scope of our world is. Again, we don't
know how big the world is normally, so how are we supposed to know how big the threat is, I guess? But I don't know.
We went from Pitch Black having an alien style of sci-fi where it's Earth expanded out. Earth culture expanded out. And then this movie instead is like, no, it's Thor, space fantasy. Earth was a part of it. There's no gradual like easing us into this. It's just you didn't fucking know that there was the space Romans. You didn't know that? Come on.
That wasn't ever mentioned. That was never mentioned in the previous movie at all. Like even as like a side comment.
Are we gonna play Escape from Butcher Bay and be a part of like some Roman castle prison, or are we gonna be in like a prison? You know what I mean? Like. What is this? So I'm with you on putting Boiler Room above this. So I think we both are in agreement.
It's gonna get so much tougher from like here on out. That every time I feel like it's getting tougher and tougher to put these.
It's gonna be weird when we have to put a video game on this list.
Do we have to make a video game ranking maybe just to make it easier for each other?
I think it's fun because at the end of the day, like it's negligible about like the minutia of like is 5, 6, and 7. No, it's somewhere in there. Like, we have rankings, the great films, the good films,
the tiers,
the bad films.
Yeah.
Exactly, tiers. A tier list. That's honestly a much better way than trying to do what we're doing, but we're having fun doing it. So, it's official. We now have 12 movies on the list. Let's go through them one more time with the Chronicles of Riddick in its proper place. Number 1 was Saving Private Ryan. Will probably be unbeat for probably ever.
Unless the next like Guardians of the Galaxy is just phenomenal, like just chef kiss.
Exactly. Saving Private Ryan, number 1. Number 2, Triple X. Number 3, The Fast and the Furious. Number 4, The Iron Giant. Number 5, Awakenings. 6, A Man Apart. 7, Boiler Room. Number 8, The Chronicles of Riddick. Number 9, Pitch Black. Number 10, Knockaround Guys. 11, Multifacial. And 12, Strays. They'll probably stay at the bottom of that list for a very long time. Just like Saving Private Ryan at the top. So, it's official. It's at number 8 on the low end. But it's on there. Let's talk about Vin Diesel's performance in this movie and then rank his performance in regards to the rest of these movies. So, I'll go first. This is a lot better than Pitch Black.
Should we say the rankings, though? The Vin rankings?
Let's do our overall thoughts.
Okay.
First off. But again, because this is a sequel, I'm mentioning Pitch Black here. In the first movie, he had a lot more lines, I feel like, than he did in this movie. However, I feel like the things he had to say were more memorable or more impactful or just better well done in this movie. Again, we mentioned this a few times already, but the type of persona that he has, this know-it-all, you know what I mean, just like the smartest person in the room, the strongest person in the room, the most deserving person in the room, and the least caring person in the room, works a lot better here, even though he still does things that I don't agree with as a person, you know what I mean. He still redeems himself in a lot of ways that I think is better. As far as, you know, Vin Diesel obviously carried a lot of that. There was moments where I could actually see emotion in a very stoic and uncaring type of person that I don't remember seeing in any case in Pitch Black. I don't necessarily think he was phenomenal, because I think we had a good streak in the past few movies of a higher tier actor. This doesn't necessarily feel like it's obviously in that higher tier of acting ability. I think it might be at the very bottom, climbing its way into that tier. But I don't necessarily think it was like, oh, obviously this is a contender for top 3. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of had the past few-ish episodes. I don't know. What are you thinking? Is there any moments that stick out to you?
He was top billed, and I feel like in the past when we've had him as top bill, we have different expectations. I mean, generally we will always be fair, I think, but I feel like on a grading scale, it was different for us. You know, when he was in something like Knockaround Guys, where he wasn't the main guy, and we felt that he had a strong performance despite not being the main guy. When you're the main guy, you're going to get more lines. The story's probably going to revolve around your character, so you have higher expectations, and you have more opportunities to deliver.
More weight to carry.
But you also have more opportunities to mess up your job. So, like, maybe he did really well in, let's say, the Knockaround Guys, or let's even we use Iron Giant as an example on our list. We know he did a good job of the voice acting, but he didn't have that many lines though, so it's kind of hard to say like he was superb, really, because he didn't have many lines to really say. It was more just grunts and machine noises. So, like, not saying that he didn't do a good job. It's just like it's hard to put that over something like the Fast and the Furious, where he kind of stole the show.
Right.
Or this, I don't think he really ever stole the show. We knew he was going to be the main guy. I think
we knew he was the show.
Yeah, and I think that is still the case by the end of the film. There was no one else that like outperformed him. I think everyone's at the kind of the same level. I think everyone did a good job. There was no actor in this that I was like, oh, that's bad. So I feel like everyone carried their own respectable weight in the roles that they were in. So I feel like that helps make the characters better.
Yeah, and this is the third movie that he has been the top billed person. First being Triple X, second being A Man Apart, and he's not good. And he's not as good in this movie as he is in those. I think straight up.
Yeah.
And obviously he stole our hearts and the show with the Fast and the Furious. So he needs to fight his way up to at least number 4 on this list. Vin Diesel fighting other Vin Diesels.
Should be cool, I guess.
Don't know. I think it's better than Pitch Black. So it's really, is it number 4 or number 5 on our list? So Pitch Black was number 6. Triple X, Fast and Furious, and A Man Apart were our top 3. Boiler Room and Multifacial, he's fighting here. At least in my opinion. If you think he should be lower than Pitch Black, let me know. But like, I think we're in agreement here. It was better this time around. He did better things.
Yeah.
And again, just like he stole the show in Pitch Black, he didn't like run away with it. But they
no one was really
filming that in that movie that they should make.
Yeah, no one in that movie was like absolutely killing it. I didn't really care as much.
Well, I mean, the woman from Silent Hill was in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, Multifacial was a short film that he made. He put his all into everything in that. Obviously, we mentioned this album almost every
And he
month
produced
now.
this one.
He was a producer on this one as well. And Boiler Room was a solid set of acting from him in a movie not about him, where he was a side character. He was maybe the third important side character. Not even like the supporting character award would go to. You know what I mean? It's not. It wouldn't even be him, right? In that movie. So I don't know.
Can you go through the list like from start to finish? Because
did I not do that?
No, you kind of
I'm
did
sorry.
them in chunks.
Sorry, my bad.
Also, it will help me because I think I know where everything is. I'm looking at our Excel sheet and it is not updated on my end.
Oh, well, I will update it after this. Sorry.
You're good.
Number 1 was Triple X. Number 2, The Fast and the Furious. Number 3, A Man Apart. Number 4, Boiler Room. Number 5, Multifacial. Number 6, Pitch Black. Number 7, Knockaround Guys. Number 8, Strays. Number 9, The Iron Giant. Number 10, Saving Private Ryan. And number 11, Awakenings. And I just want to point out, number 1, again, Saving Private Ryan is just his performance in these movies. And number 2, if you want to know our full thoughts about these movies, check out our other episodes.
I think I'm thinking between 5, 4, and 3. Like we're kind of where you were saying. I'm like, it can be any of those.
I think it was
a high of 3. A high of a 3. Like,
you think he can beat A Man Apart?
No, but I'm saying like I can maybe hear an argument for it. Like if someone said
Okay.
like,
interesting.
Because A Man Apart, he was top billing, and there were some decent actors in it, but I feel like he held just a little bit higher standard in that throughout. He had some good scenes where I felt like his acting was really, really good. So maybe below A Man Apart.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to just automatically give it number 4. At the same time, I think it's better than Boiler Room.
Boiler Room, he only had a limited number of scenes. He did good in those scenes. He had one of my favorite monologues, I think, in a lot of the films I've seen. Like just that monologue of him just being a cocky phone salesman. And that was one of the first like monologues besides his monologue in Multifacial, where we were like, holy shit, Vin, you playing, dog. You playing.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I'm like, was he? Because he wasn't bad in this movie.
No, I don't think there was ever one bad. I don't think there was one bad scene. You think
it's more about like my gripes with the character,
or the writing. It's not like there was never a scene where he like delivered dialogue weird. Like, what if he said the "fuck you" part? He was like "fuck you," like just said it with no energy. Like then I'd be like, okay, Vin, what are you doing, dude? Like, what was that line?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's where we're gonna put it. I'll read the list once more, maybe even 5 times because I fucked up and didn't say it earlier.
You're good.
I saw you give me a look too, as if I missed it, and I'm like, what?
No, I was just confused because I was trying to imagine it in my head. I was trying to be like, what number is he at?
Number 1 was Triple X. Number 2, The Fast and the Furious. Number 3, A Man Apart. Number 4, The Chronicles of Riddick. Number 5, Boiler Room. Number 6, Multifacial. 7 was Pitch Black. Number 8, Knockaround Guys. Number 9, Strays. 10, The Iron Giant. 11, Saving Private Ryan. And 12, Awakenings, where he was an extra.
In one frame.
Exactly. Maybe 7 total. So there you have it. There is the placements of the Chronicles of Riddick in their respective rankings. You can catch us on a variety of podcast services. Sorry, I'm tired. It's midnight here. Like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Audible Podcast app, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, etc., as well as our YouTube channel at Sonic Movie Show. Also, you can check out our other video game movie episodes on the Sonic Movie Show, where we do a very similar thing to this, where we watch a movie and then talk about it. That's on this exact feed because we have the Chronicles of Diesel piggybacks off of the Sonic Movie Shows.
It's under feed. The umbrella, the productions,
the SMS banner. Yeah, it's all on there. So if you like one of those other podcast places, well, you could use those too. Let us know what you thought about the Chronicles of Riddick on Twitter by tweeting at us at Sonic Movie Show. Are we crazy for being downish on this movie, yet also thinking it's one of his best performances? Do you think that this movie was
kind of true,
a classic? Do you think that, if anything, that just means that he's not a good actor? If we think a movie that he's just okay in is number 4 on a list of 12, but he's getting better and better because the last, 4 of the last 5 movies are in the top 4. So he's getting better.
Or the movies he's in are better too. Who knows? Might be a mix of both. Might be him getting better and the movies he are in generally better.
Yeah. People have learned how to write well for him. And he's also a producer in...
That could also be a correlation too. Him producing, maybe he knows the stuff that he succeeds at.
And usually I kind of roll my eyes at like, oh, the top billed actor, because they have so much sway, they get to be a producer. It's like, ugh. But hey, if it allows him to actually be a good actor, then I'd produce.
You should always put
you
should put yourself in places to succeed. You know, I'm not gonna be dropped in an airplane to fly it. I'm not. Leave it to someone else.
Yeah, leave it to Tom Hanks, aka Sully. He killed those birds on purpose. Tweet at us if you think Sully killed those birds on purpose at Sonic Movie Show. Tweet at me. I'm Ethan at Ethan Absolutely on Twitter. Tweet at Devin. He's at CURSONA YouTube. Let him know why the sports are bad. And then we'll check you out next month on February 1st. Valentine's Day would be 2 weeks around the corner from that day.
Jesus Christ.
2 Chronicles of Riddick side stories, like Dark Fury and Escape from Butcher Bay. We're going to have to buy an Xbox.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, yay. And then maybe we'll sell it because I don't know if we'll need it. But
we'll sign it and sell it to some random person on eBay.
Buy our Xbox. Yeah. All right. We will see you next month.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Sexy.
What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.